Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 30th of July, 2023. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Yes.
And Robert Kemp.
Bon.
Okay.
I didn't really have a follow-up to you.
Well, no, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
Did you design it that way, Zach? It's like, let's see him follow this.
Yeah, it's always like, let's see if Rob can make his own something rather than a follow-up.
This is too
If
generic.
I still have to go first. Make my first neutral.
Neutral. I suppose I should have gone hi Barbie. That's what's happening right now.
I guess.
Hi Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
I can.
Have you seen it? I did the double bill on the first day.
I did not do the double bill. I have not Barbenheimed.
I did. I Barbenheimed. I had the afternoon off, especially.
That seems like a long day.
It was great.
Which way round did you do it?
Oppenheimer first, obviously.
Okay,
Come on. You'd have to be insane to do it the other way.
But then...
And then have a break as well, and a meal or something in between. I didn't go... It would be crazy emotional whiplash to go straight into Barbie.
But then also, semi-spoilers, I guess. The ending of Barbie isn't all that uplifting.
No, sure. Well, no.
I mean, sort of, but not. That film is surprisingly heavy.
Yeah, well, I kind of knew that from the trailer. Like, I was like, which one's going to have more existential dread? Is it going to be the one where Barbie's like, oh, you ever think about dying?
That was pretty funny. I gotta say, I enjoyed myself quite a lot. No, we've lost Dad. I can hear him talking in the background.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the waveform confirms.
It just disappeared. He's coming back.
What's wrong?
He just disappeared into like next to no volume.
What about now?
It is fine. You're back.
Okay.
You're back in the room.
I don't know. Well, I didn't touch anything.
But yeah, it was a good time. But like, it had my classic film problem in that, like, they don't. I mean, I guess it's impossible, but like, I really wanted them to just maintain the level of silliness, and they didn't quite pull that off.
No, it sort of does come back though. It kind of dips and then restores.
And then comes back. Yeah,
maybe it's sillier when they're in Barbie Land than probably
of course,
than when they're in the real world.
But still,
although in the Mattel corporate thing, is some of that stuff is pretty dumb.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's cool. And Will Ferrell basically reprising his role as President Business or whatever from the Lego movie.
Lord Business. Yeah.
It's pretty Lord Business.
It is good, but it's a bit heavy, and also like. All right, spoilery chat. Like, don't
feminist thing.
Well, yes, but okay. This is my beef with it. I don't know, and I should preface this with, of course, I don't have a beef with feminism. Of course, I don't have a problem with, equality and all that jazz. Of course not. But I don't think equality was this film's goal. Like, it is. Hey, we should reverse everything. It's like they should be.
Well, I don't know.
It feels like coming out the back of that. It's like, hey, we should have a matriarchy, and it's like,
well, that's the thing, isn't it? I think the Kens kind of realized they needed to be independent or whatever, and not be reliant on like entirely base their existence on Barbie, which is kind of
whilst the Barbies also agree that they should rule everything. You know what I mean? It's like
it's definitely
It's like what's the flip side argument to that? That they should just segregate? That's worse.
Yeah, it's definitely worse. Yeah, it wasn't totally clear at the end. I think it was pretty clear that a matriarchy would be bad. Would be bad. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, both sides of that coin are bad, right? You got to tilt that coin at an awkward angle.
Yeah.
But
wasn't it the
slightly awkward
voiceover at the end where it's like one day the Kens will have just as much rights and power as women do in the real world.
Yeah,
yeah, it was clever.
Yeah, there's definitely moments where it's just like, yeah, okay, I see what you're doing, and sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's very not. And
I felt very seen by all of the like taking the mick out of straight men. It's like, let me force you to watch The Godfather and then play guitar at you for 4 hours.
Oh, that was very funny.
It was like talk to you about Steve Malkmus and the Jigs. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what I do.
Although in fairness, I haven't seen The Godfather, so you know.
Oh, okay, fair.
I'm not in that boat.
Yeah.
Nor can I play guitar, let alone for 4 hours.
Technically, you
so
can.
You're safe.
Yeah.
You're safe.
Well,
Or could.
I mean, not even really could. It was power chords don't count.
They do count, sort of.
Sort of.
You could probably, what I never could get the grip of, and I'm still struggling with, is I could never, all you need is to be able to palm mute. If you can do power chords and palm muting, you're kind of sorted for a whole genre of punk. But I can't fucking palm mute. I suck so bad.
I did try. Muting in general was always like just a problem for me. I couldn't make things stop cleanly. Like, you know, I'd mute it, fine, but then it's the lift off, right? Isn't the lift off like the hardest part? Because then it just lets the strings do something weird and you just go pong in the background. And it's like, no. I want you to be quiet.
So I should have been playing or trying to play since I was 14, but haven't apparently started to try to play until I'm 37 or whatever. I think I said the other day, I was trying to play Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
And basically, if you know that riff, whatever, whatever. So it's like 2 palm muted strokes and then one that rings. So it's the chung chung dung. The first 2 are palm muted, and then you have to lift off to actually ring the note that stands out. So it's like chung chung dung, chung chung dung, chung chung dung, like that.
Oh yeah.
And that's like what? You have to like move your palm like up and down, like and then and the first 2 are always palm muted, which sounds really cool when you have it distorted, but then you have to have the other one ring, and it's like, oh, fucking hell, it's a nightmare. I need to get better with my right hand, like significantly better. Like for a long time when I first played guitar, I only did downstrokes, and I never did, apart from if I was like strumming.
Pretty much likewise, because I mean that was another thing. Why I say I couldn't play guitar really is like my ups would always be like incorrectly placed. I'd go a string too far down, and when pulling the up, and it's like no, I've hit it again. Yeah,
but then when you do learn to do the
enough for that
upstrokes.
stuff.
Well, it just takes practice or whatever. When you do learn to do the upstrokes, obviously it's easier to play. Once you can do that, it's easier to play something fast by going up and down because it's much less effort.
Sure.
But Master of Puppets, in reality, to play it properly is all downstrokes, and that's just painful. It's just you have to do it really fast because it sounds different. Like a downstroke just sounds different to an upstroke. Usually better. Anyway,
I suppose. Yeah.
So playing like quarter note downstrokes for 15 minutes. It's just, I don't know how Joey Ramone did it. Yeah. Anyway.
I wonder if that's just that bit where because in Master of Puppets, right, that riff is soloed, right? And then there's a separate sort of fast riff for while the verse is on. So I wonder if he like relaxes into a down and up, for the verse version of it. Anyway.
Probably. You need a bit of a break. Yeah.
But then again, drummers are just insane. Like the amount of stamina they must need to do what they do.
Yeah, I don't really understand that.
No,
I'm not even going to
drumming
try
is
to
bad.
understand how the hell that works. It's amazing what you can train your brain to do with like hours and hours of practice. Or your brain and your body, because I'm sure a lot of the signals don't even go to a part of the brain that is disconnected from what you're thinking about.
Must just become natural, not even conscious to a degree.
Yeah. So I still suck at playing the same songs that I learned when I was like 16, apparently. But never mind. It's still fun though. That's the important thing.
Good.
Yeah. So yes, Barbie.
Barbie's a good time.
Yeah, it was really fun. And Oppenheimer, like I find personally, Nolan hit and miss, and this one was a hit.
Okay.
I skipped the last one because I knew it would be a miss. I'm not interested in watching Tenet.
Well, I don't know. Something about. I mean, Tenet had like. I don't think they sold it well before it even came out. To the point where I still don't really know what it's about. right, even now, like I remember hearing like the aftermath of it, of being like, yeah, it's a really confusing, weird ass film, and it's like, surely that would make me interested, but I have absolutely no idea what it's about in the first place. So like, what's there to be interested about other than it's a Nolan film?
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, something didn't get through, I think, with that.
Yeah,
and maybe that was the problem. Maybe no one knew how to sell it. But then, of course,
anyway.
I like Interstellar. I know that's a bit. Some people don't like that.
I don't like Interstellar for whatever reason, even though it's spectacular. I need to give it another chance, probably, but I didn't like it when I watched it.
It's one of those films I see popping up on the sort of like chats of the sort of like, oh, this is a film you should go back to once you become a parent, kind of thing.
Oh, like, right, with the whole
yeah,
sure.
Like people talk about Arrival in the same way.
Arrival's great though.
Arrival's an amazing film. I mean, I don't think I'm going to feel any different about it watching it now as a parent, because it was rough the first time.
Yeah, I think there's no contest for me between Arrival and Interstellar. Arrival's way
Arrival's way. I do prefer it, obviously, but obviously,
yeah. But yeah, Oppenheimer good.
Good.
One thing,
Dunkirk. Are you a Dunkirk fan?
I am a Dunkirk fan,
okay.
But I saw it in 70mm at the Odeon Leicester Square or whatever. Right. So it was quite spectacular. It probably has more of an effect than watching it on a TV.
I mean, I saw it digital IMAX. Obviously not properly 70mm, but
yeah.
I mean, it was structurally difficult, as a lot of Nolan films are.
He always does that. Yeah. I mean, Oppenheimer does the same thing, of course, where it's flicking between the timelines,
right? And
one of them's black and white and then I think there's 3 timelines, and only one of them is black and white, but the other 2 are color. So it's like, what?
Weird. Okay, is it? Yeah. Is it? I mean, why is that to tie up with? They hadn't invented color TV then, or?
No, it's actually in reverse. The black and white ones are in the future. Well, not the future, but they are more recent chronologically than the color ones.
Slightly odd choice.
Yeah, it's cool though. But like, obviously it builds up to the big test, which is the big scene, of course, which is good. So that's like 2 hours or whatever, and then the last hour is like all like court hearings and like a Senate confirmation hearings and stuff, like, so it turns into like a courtroom drama.
Weird.
But that's the best bit. Right. That's when it's really, really good. So I like the last part of Oppenheimer better than the first part. Not that the first part is bad or anything, but I think it gets better as it goes along. Robert Downey Jr. is in it, and he's really, really good. In fact, all the performances are good. So yeah.
Of all places, I was in the pub yesterday morning. Don't judge. I was having breakfast, not drinking. Important.
Not that I would judge, but yeah.
And even we're there almost every week as a sort of post-run breakfast on a Saturday morning, and even the staff there are going on about it's like, okay, I didn't think it would be my thing, but I was super into Oppenheimer and Robert Downey Jr. especially. Like they were like he's the best bit.
Yeah.
And then they said that Barbie was surprisingly sad, and I'm like, okay, I haven't seen it yet. Stop there.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay, true. In spots it is.
True. She does do a lot of crying, Barbie.
There's a lot of crying. Yeah.
There's a lot of crying. Emotional. Yeah.
Totes emotion.
Yeah. Well, emotion. Well, I've seen Greta Gerwig films before, so I was prepared for that. Have you watched Lady Bird?
Oh, no, I haven't seen Lady Bird.
That's really good. And then she also did the recent-ish remake of Little Women, which had Florence Pugh and Timothy Chalamet and stuff, and that's good. And Saoirse Ronan again, yeah. But Lady Bird is the one if you're going to watch one. It's really good.
The Saoirse Ronan one, right?
Yeah, and she's also the lead in Little Women, I guess. But it's a bit more ensemble in Little Women, obviously, because they're all sisters and stuff.
What I thought was the only thing I haven't quite pegged about Barbie is I can't quite work out the target audience. Like I guess it's us and those that are nostalgic for it, as opposed to kids now, but also kids are going to see this, and there's an awful lot of what I would argue is like not adult in the sense of like it being outrageously, obviously crude and sweary and all that kind of stuff, but clearly adult-oriented humor.
I think it can be enjoyed on different levels. Maybe not quite on the same level as like a classic Simpsons or whatever. But
sure.
I think, I think you get more out of it as an adult who understood what they were talking about. But yeah,
I didn't see it while I was in it. I was just thinking, this isn't really a kids' film.
No, it's not.
I don't get it. Like,
it's not like Mattel come out of it very well at all.
No, they don't.
They come out of it really badly. Yeah. But I mean, they make a bunch of cash out of it, so I'm sure they don't mind.
Yeah.
I have heard that they're idiots, and they now want to make a film franchise out of all of their properties. And it's like, did you watch the film? Do you get what that's not going to work, you maniacs?
I mean, it might.
You can't. Yeah.
I mean, if they return to G.I. Joe, they might be onto something.
They already tried that once, though, didn't they?
Yeah, but it was like too much of a reimagining, right? It wasn't like G.I. Joe as anyone remembered it. But apparently they weren't bad films, right? They're just sort of average in the age of like the new CG era of action films, I guess. They were kind of like right in the middle of it and were not really standout.
But then what are you actually going to... What would you do if the not that version of G.I. Joe? Would it have to be like a weird Barbie situation where you've got like these 80s not really superheroes, but now they're in the modern military and they have to deal with that?
Well, yeah, it could be like
that'd be cool.
An out of time action film could be kind of fun, but you know, it's not like that hasn't been done before.
Well, sure,
but it could work pretty well.
They're like from Commando or like Predator or something,
or like what if they take small soldiers and make it like awkward and funny?
Then make it like Small Soldiers. Make the same film again, apart from a different brand. With a real brand.
Yeah, with a real
instead of
brand.
a fake brand.
Yeah. I used to like Small Soldiers, but like I don't know if it holds up.
I'm sure it doesn't.
I doubt it does, yeah. I think it's probably like one of those films where I liked more as a younger me. And now it's just like too cookie cutter, I bet. But it was probably pretty innovative at the time.
Maybe. I mean, it's basically just the take on Toy Story of the time, right?
Yeah,
we're just going to rip off the Toy Story idea, but with different toys.
But the CG and animation had got to a point where it was going to work, right? Even though a lot of it was actually like practical.
Yeah. Which
is also cool, really.
Well, sure. I mean, that did make it a bit different, I suppose.
Yeah, Small Soldiers was pretty early, though, really. Like before everything was just pure CG.
So, does this mean I have to make you watch The Godfather?
I mean, maybe.
Oh my God, it's like 3 hours.
I know. That's kind of the problem.
It's
I'm a bit
it's
afraid.
Quite good.
I'm a bit.
I would say.
I'm sure. Like, I know it's like its status in the world of film. But then I made myself watch. Oh, okay, it must be over a decade ago now. But I made myself watch Scarface, right? Like,
okay, that's not nearly as good as The Godfather.
Right. Okay, I'm glad you said that because it's like. In my mind, it's like.
Didn't you mean the Brian De Palma one with Al Pacino?
Yes, yeah. And I kind of thought that was held in the same regard, and it's like
no. I mean, that's good if you want to get all the references in Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Sure,
but no, it is not. And there's like, say hello to my little friend, but no, that is.
But that's not even said in the way like everyone says it, right? He says it in the intonation of that line delivery is
my little friend.
My little friend. It doesn't. Half the consonants aren't actually said. It's a weird film.
It's a weird film. It is a good film, but I mean, that's not even honor. Have you seen the one that is comparable to The Godfather is Goodfellas?
I've not seen that either.
Scorsese one. Okay. Scarface isn't even close to either of those.
Okay.
So don't. Yeah, you watched the wrong one if you were going to make yourself watch a classic. Okay. I'm afraid.
Yeah,
I could have told you, but yeah.
I think I lumped it all in my. Well, in fairness, there was a point where I knew someone who was a big Al Pacino fan who had like 1 billion of his DVDs, so I watched a few of them and didn't quite get it. you know what I mean? Didn't quite land as the same.
Did you watch Heat or whatever?
See, no, I haven't seen Heat either, and I really want. I actually do really want to watch that. But
I think you would like Heat, but I'm not a massive fan of Heat. But I think you would probably enjoy it. I don't know. I think it's a little bit too. I don't know. It's a bit too nihilistic and
not to be confused with The Heat, the Sandra Bullock joint.
Right? Yeah.
Very different film.
Yeah. Good. Good
fellas. Like
good.
A Heat 2.
He wrote a book, didn't he? Like a novel that was a sequel to Heat, like whoever the director is. Is that the same guy as Scarface?
Is it De Palma? I don't know. Or was that another Scorsese joint? I don't know.
No, Heat isn't Scorsese. It's
not my era, these films. It's not my era. It's like a music
Michael Mann. Oh, yeah, Michael Mann. Yeah, okay.
I was about to say, it's like a music question. If it's not late 90s, early 2000s, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Goodfellas, good. Godfather, really good. Scarface, skip it.
Fair. I mean, it was all right. So the music is strange in that. I remember quite clearly because it's kind of like these sort of like.
I mean, the thing I realized watching it, like having seen because I knew that the mansion in Vice City is obviously from Scarface or whatever, but I didn't realize like the club in Vice City or whatever is the same basically. You know, the one on the corner or whatever. In that's basically the same as the set in. Like quite a lot of it is just copied directly from Scarface. Yeah. And now they're doing Grand Theft Auto 6, with the leaks. Like it is supposed to be a Miami, isn't it? So maybe there'll be a high def Scarface references. Although I don't know what era it's going to be set in. It's probably modern day, right? But
that'd be my guess.
Yeah.
As long as we get someone who's a little bit like Horatio from CSI Miami in it, so he can put his sunglasses on and walk away.
Sunglasses on, yeah. That was good when Ken put on two sets.
2 pairs of sunglasses.
It was like, oh yeah.
That was pretty good.
Cool.
You know what else I watched? I've watched the first 2 episodes of Ms. Marvel.
Oh yeah, I quite like that one.
I'm not super feeling it at the moment, if I'm honest.
It's all right.
I don't know exactly what it is. Again, it's not the cultural thing. The cultural thing is fine. Like, and I actually think that's probably the best, the most,
aspect of it.
Yeah, the most fulfilling implementation. I'm just not feeling the interactions between the characters and the over. What may be over-exaggerated teenageness of it. Like, I don't know.
Oh, it's very,
It feels like the kind of fake teenager that TV makes rather than like how people really are. I don't know. I'm just not relating to it at all.
It's also a comic book, but yeah.
Of course. But,
you're right.
But, I feel like Marvel have done in a lot of their stuff, they tend to make things feel somewhat grounded when when they want it to be, and this is not that. There is like even though the supernatural elements are kind of downplayed,
at least initially until she's like walking up like platforms that she conjures in midair.
Sure, but it's even with that, there's not a huge part of it. It's still like I don't know. It's not. It's all right, is what I'm trying to say. It's all right, but it's not. It's not getting its hooks in like pretty much everything else that Marvel has done with me. Like I really enjoyed Hawkeye by the end of it, and I was pretty into it. I'm not so into this, and it's I'm a bit surprised.
Well, I don't regret not having started watching Secret Invasion now that people are really complaining about it. Now it's over.
You sort of hate watching it, but actually love it.
No, I haven't watched it at all. I was like, that's the new thing, and I was like, I don't know if I could be bothered. And now it's over. It's like, I think the consensus is probably worth avoiding, even though the cast is insane.
Oh mate, no, I'm still going to watch it. I'm still hyped for it.
Okay, we have to tell us on the podcast.
Yeah. I want to see that controversial AI generated intro.
Right, bunch of mid-journey,
See if people are drinking from not quite canned bottles with human heads in them.
Oh, so good. I think they need. Someone's probably already done that, but you should just, some brand should,
make
do
a
that
can
on
bottle.
purpose. Yeah, no, I mean they should do an advert that is not only obviously AI generated, but like try and ramp up how weird it is. Like try and prompt it to make the maddest, most inhuman, insane thing. You know what I mean? Like a disturbing Aphex Twin video or something. And make that now's the time to do that.
While the writers and actors are all on strike, like maybe maybe this is the time to be playing with that stuff.
But emphasize how unnatural it is rather than try to make it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Don't make it. Don't go all the way into the uncanny valley. Go all the way in.
Exactly.
So you can't even climb your way out. You don't want to be able to. You want to be stuck there. You want dogs with 4 mouths.
Yeah, exactly. Or are they mouths even? They seem to be stacked on top of each other.
Don't even know.
Very odd. Yeah.
I was telling someone about our adventures in the being image generation that we did after the recording last week. And they were like, "Okay, I've got one for you. Give me I want to see a cow riding a bicycle in Victorian dress." And I'm like, "No problem. Fire it up." And it's like that's probably one of the most accurate things I've ever seen it come up with. It looks pretty great. It's
nice.
It even avoided the hand problem in a couple of cases by making the Victorian dress long enough that it draped over the hands, so you could even see how dodgy they would be on the handlebars. Nice. And it's like, oh, that's really smart. It's like
not sure it did that on purpose, but it worked.
But it was clever. That stuff's hilarious. It's still hilarious, and it's still fun. The number of people, I guess it's not that surprising, but the number of people that don't understand it. So when you're talking to people about it, and they're asking the classic questions of, so are they doing people out of jobs? And you're like, well, not really, not right now. Right. It's like that's not strictly how it works. It's just not quite good enough for any of that.
Yeah, but it is good enough to help people do certain jobs.
Yes,
much faster in such a way that they need less people overall to be doing.
And you need to be very careful about fact checking it, and you need to be very careful about this, that, and whatever. It's never quite what you want, all that kind of stuff. It's always got to be manipulated by a human at some point. Or it might take the same amount of time for a human to actually get what they want out of it through prompt jockeying. Which, don't get me wrong, I think is a skill, but it's a very transient skill.
Yeah, we'll see how it develops. I mean, the skill of Googling, has lasted. It's still a skill. I mean, it's quite a pretty easy skill, relatively, but I mean, some people are definitely better at it than others.
Well, it depends what you're searching for. There are plenty of times where there's a more popular version of the thing I'm trying to describe, and then it's almost impossible to get Google or any search engine to give you the more obscure thing, because it's like, oh no, you clearly want this popular worded thing, and I'm like, no, I want, and I want the other thing, but I don't quite know enough about how to describe it in order to find the other thing, but I know it's not this. Ugh. Yeah, search. You kind of want a search engine to be able to just do what AI does in terms of objectify things, right? Like object recognition, and you kind of want to say. I'm thinking of this thing, and it gives you a list of unique options rather than lots of things that reference the same thing. That would be pretty great if there was a way of organizing that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a cartoon from this era of time that had these things in it, and instead of getting posts about every cartoon under the sun that probably references the same cartoon that might be like that over and over and over again, it would be nice if it could break that down into here's a list of cartoons that I think are in that area.
Yeah, I think that is coming, isn't it?
Yeah, slightly more contextual, less referential results. That would be nice.
Computers. My job is just computer.
It's just beach.
It's just computer.
Just pixels. I'm sure someone describes their jobs as just pixels.
Just pixel pushers. Yeah, it's a classic.
Oh no, how do I use the select tool? I don't understand. Help you, Ken.
I tried introducing baby Miles to a mouse.
Oh yeah,
that was quite entertaining. Not to actually do anything useful with it, just to like.
Is he going to need a mouse by the time he's like?
No, I'm going to make sure. No, that usage I will stand firm. That usage paradigm is not going away.
Okay, probably. I'm sure you're fair, but I'm sure, like, you know, kids today, young kids, they get so used to screens being touch screens that they try to touch every screen immediately.
I mean, apparently that's a thing. Yeah,
yeah,
and you know, we sort of witnessed it with our friend's daughter during Eurovision.
Well, I think that's
only hilarious.
I think that's only if you expose them to touch screens constantly.
Yeah, that's the thing. They learn that as the primary use case, and then don't realise that every screen can't do that, or can do that. Sorry. I mean, it has been known to be a problem, right? It's been documented before that kids then come to, you know, try and they get to school, right, and they try and they get taught out or told to use a real PC, and they've got no idea what they're doing.
Well, but that's different though, right? Because in theory, like, most people wouldn't have any idea how to use an actual PC on like a real level. Like maybe they.
What do you mean? Well, to describe a real level?
Well, I mean, in the way of being able to actually do things on it, like it's not just the physical function. Even it's like how do you even, as we talked about before on the podcast, it's like how do you understand how a PC even does the things you want it to do? Like, well, what do all these menus actually mean? When did you learn that?
Yeah.
You just don't, but you do somehow.
Somehow you do. Yeah. I mean, it's the same argument as to why I can't use Macs, right?
Sure.
Like why I, despite all my intelligence with computers and knowledge and background and all that stuff, I still find Macs a friggin' nightmare to use. And
that's maybe a slightly different problem.
Sort of, yeah. But it's
what is it that you trip up on? Because obviously,
like almost everything
converted or whatever. Okay,
like it's okay. No, it's not that bad. But there's always there's a little thing in everything about a Mac that ends up bothering me. Like the fact that there's no cut and paste in Finder was the one the other day that wound me up. It's like, seriously, I can't do this. I have to drag and drop. What's that about?
But is that true? That can't be true.
I mean, I thought that too, but I couldn't like Command X a file and then go over to another Finder window where I was. Yeah, that's what I mean. There's no cut function.
I mean, there is copy.
Right. Okay. But
I personally never use cut.
I use it all
even
the
on Windows.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just to move stuff around, like I'll cut it out of one. I'll have two windows that I'm working in one, you know, and
yeah.
Admittedly, that's the same. I could just drag. Drop it,
if you have two windows, then you could just drag drop or shift drag drop.
But sometimes I don't have two windows, and I have like the folder explorer open, right? And I'll click in a folder, grab what I want, and then the folder I want to move to is right there. So I'll click that and then paste it, and you know, without having to open another window and do the whole navigation thing. Like
you can drag it into the tree.
Yeah, or you could drag it into the tree, I guess. But that's not the tree. I mean, the Mac representation of the file system isn't always that helpful.
That's what I'm thinking. Your actual problem with Macs is that it's not that you don't understand it; it's that it doesn't let you do it because it's a Mac.
Yeah. Or
you know what you want to do, but Mac doesn't want you to do that.
The fact the action of the end key is different on Mac, that really pisses me off.
Is it?
Yeah. On Windows, it's end of line. In Mac, it's end of file.
Yeah, end of file. Yeah.
Which is really irritating because I'm constantly doing that when I code, like going to end of line.
Is home key start of line?
Start of file Windows? As well. Start of line.
In Windows, home key is start of line.
I believe so, but I don't really use that one.
Interesting. What about if you're using a web browser and you hit home? Does that goes to the top of the page, doesn't it?
I don't know. Again, don't really use that.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I've just pushed it and it does, but
it does. Yeah, that's how. I'm used to it being the same, you know, for home and end. But anyway, I don't even have an end key on my keyboard, so.
Right, yeah, but that annoys me. So I can't learn the muscle memory. What is fairly simple? It's Command Right, isn't it, on Mac instead to do end of line? And it's like I know that, but my muscle memory doesn't make me do that. So I'm constantly pushing end if I'm working on a Mac and end up in the wrong place, and I'm like, no.
I mean, the real problem is not Mac. The real problem is switching between different ways of doing it. If you converted to Mac like I did, you wouldn't have a problem after a while.
You're probably right. It is mode of operation, but like I just struggle with it, and I dislike it.
Yeah, fair.
It's not necessarily Mac's fault. I just dislike it. Well, and when there's a thing missing, and I don't like that that the menus, you can hold the option button to get secret menu items appearing. I think that's a terrible usage paradigm. Like just like, why? You've already hidden an option away in a menu. Why hide it behind another modifier?
Yep, that is pretty weird.
It's weird.
There's tons of weird things. The thing that annoys me to this day of Mac is it doesn't have, and I think Windows is different. It doesn't have it doesn't have click through. So, like, if you have focus on one window and you click on another window, the first click focuses that window, but it doesn't click through
actually
and
do the action.
Whatever.
Right.
No, you have to click again which is on purpose. It's a choice, but it's not configurable.
Again, I can see the intent there. That's like, I have less of a problem with that. But
so the thing that happens to me is, I've got my code editor on the left and I've got my browser on the right or whatever, and the focus is on the browser. And if I right click inside, let's say, the file explorer of the editor and click like new file, I can do that, but it still hasn't, and it does the action, but it still hasn't clicked through. So then if I start typing the name of the file, it doesn't have the focus.
Oh, that's weird.
It's so annoying.
So it did the context. It knew to pop the context menu and work and do the focus. So the app had focus to do that, but it didn't.
Yeah,
it didn't acquire actual focus.
Focus.
Okay, that is slightly odd.
Yeah, it annoys me to this day, and it's not configurable. Like it's. Anyway.
I get it with under normal usage, but yeah, if it still popped if you right clicked and it didn't do anything, and it just acquired focus, and then you had to do it again, that would feel at least consistent, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know.
Can you hover mouse wheel? Is that a thing Mac allows? So you don't have to the window doesn't have to focus. You can just hover and wheel in it.
And so it scrolls.
Okay.
So that works.
Okay, that's good. I was a bit worried the focus would break that, or the lack of focus would break that.
No, that works. Anyway, that's just that still annoys me to this day. I'm pretty sure, but I could see why people are annoyed by acting the other way. If you accidentally click, you could actually do something even though the window didn't have focus. Or
I will give Mac some credit. It's like while the lack of a true maximize can be occasionally a bit odd, like you always have to give up some screen real estate to something, right? Like the bar at the bottom of the screen is quite big, and you can make it auto hide. Don't at me about
that's
that.
That's what I do. Yeah.
But still, it's like there's always some amount of real estate going to something else on a Mac. Yeah. But I do like the quality of their window manager. It is good, right? Things that, like, when you maximize something in Windows, there's often an awkward snap or an awkward flicker as it tries to re-render or try re-chrome the window or something like that, and that's just not a thing in Macland, and that's lovely.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. I just hope they both get better.
Well, yeah.
Mac needs to get better. It needs to be a bit faster in places, and Windows needs to sort out all their legacy shit.
Windows needs a slickening. It always has done.
Yeah.
And every time they try, it's not quite what anyone wants.
Yeah, just putting the start bar in the middle doesn't make it better.
No, it doesn't. And also, I just can't get past the whole Mac mentality people have of like, it just works. It's like, no, it doesn't. Yeah, I've had so many problems. But
some things in the Apple ecosystem are like mind blowing and like wouldn't be possible without the stupid walled garden. Well, not walled garden, but for example, like when I got my watch, I walked out to my Mac and it unlocked my Mac. It's like I didn't have to configure it or anything. Right. It just happened, and it was like
kind of neat
because my watch was already authenticated biometrically with me or whatever. Well, no, I'd typed the code into my watch at the start of the day, and it knew I hadn't taken the watch off.
Right.
So it knew I was me, and then therefore it communicated with the Mac and told it, "Oh, it's this guy," and unlocked it without a password.
Sure, that's cool.
So stuff like that. There's certain things that just sort of the quote unquote just work.
Yeah, but then when you get bugs, they're normally massive bugs. Is the other thing, like system killing bugs, or which we have encountered with our use of the M1s.
You got some kernel panics going on.
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, we've had 2 M1 Mac Minis, and both of them have had startup trouble. And because one of them we remote access to, there has been a fairly nasty remote access bug that means if you accidentally leave power saving on a device that you're remoting into turned on, and that kicks in, it becomes impossible to both remotely log into it and locally log into it.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So the only solution then is to hard turn it off, which most Macs don't let you do via the power button. So you unplug the thing.
Right.
And that is, as it turns out, very risky with Macs because they corrupt very easily.
Oh dear.
So we've managed to break one, and I've managed to then fix it, which was a effort, but
impressive.
Because you can do that. It has got recovery menus and blah blah blah, and you can then get hold of a completely fresh OS install. We had to reformat that thing from very scratch, but you can do that. Which is something I actually didn't think you could. So I was pleasantly surprised by that process, but I shouldn't be having to go through that process because of basically a chain of events that is just a bug. And to this day, I don't think they've fixed that. Little things. I should stop ranting. Windows has a bucket load of little things too. I'm used to the little things in Windows, right?
But you know what the big advantage of Windows is?
Games.
Computer games.
We got there.
Yeah, and this is a podcast about video games. I was watching the Red Letter Media review of Oppenheimer, and they kept cutting to the big fireball or whatever from the trailer of the explosion, and they just overlaid across that like "I am become Segway." So we are segueing into the video game news.
Right, only 40 minutes in. We didn't even have like a subtle mention of a video game, I don't think, up to this point.
About computers, but yeah.
Yeah. Is it true that Macs still don't have a dedicated full screen mode? So like graphics.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it's always running in the Windows Manager. That was a thing at one point. I don't know if that's still true. Actually,
I don't know. I haven't tried. I think the one time I tried when I've tried gaming on Mac, I think it has been in a window effectively, but it's worked out fine. Like it was fine when we're playing Disco Elysium or even when I was playing Civilization. Like it's fine.
I think the only game I've ever played on a Mac was Nerds. Don't know if that counts.
Yeah. Nerds. But the things are supposedly getting better, right? They've got basically DirectX emulation on the kind of level of the Valve one.
Oh,
for
really?
The Steam Deck or whatever. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, to a compatibility layer between DirectX and Metal instead of Vulkan or whatever it is. But yeah, it's basically the same kind of tech as Steam Deck is doing. Probably not quite as good at this point, but it's on its way.
So what's the thing that like a game maker would have to still compile it for Mac, but they wouldn't have to change their graphics protocol layer, and it would just run that side of it okay?
I think so. Although the Steam Deck, do they even need to do it?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, are they doing enough like Windows kernel emulation or remapping at least? So that's not a problem either.
Yeah. Anyway, I feel like that stuff is still a little way off, but it could make a difference. Not that
I mean, it's great.
M2 line processors are necessarily like going to compete with.
And in theory, like thanks to all the like conversations around the Dolphin emulator and its recent battles with not really battle, but recent like kerfuffle with Steam and Nintendo. Apparently, that's that stuff would technically be 100% legal. So like doing interop layers for Mac to run Windows stuff would be fine. They could just do it. And I guess that's how Steam get away with it on the deck, right? There's no legal issue there. Just give us maximum interoperability, everybody. Let's do it. Emulate the world.
Yeah, everyone can play what they want, where they want it. That's the beautiful future.
Getting past streaming.
So what news we got? Not much going on this week.
Really bugger all. I mean, I touched on one of the things. It was that dolphin thing actually got a little bit clarified. They don't think they're in. Basically, I think last time we talked about it, like the whole thing was like Dolphin were trying to get themselves listed on Steam, but Steam basically said you're going to need Nintendo's approval for that. We're a bit worried about it. Nintendo obviously said no, you can't do that. And that's kind of the end of it. It wasn't actually any more serious than that, as it turns out. So Dolphin can't be on Steam. The Dolphin project isn't dead. Dolphin's still going to be around. The Wii common keys argument that a few people raised, and that isn't apparently a problem either. The whole question about whether those common keys could be classified as secret numbers, and therefore a bit of a something you could legally challenge, doesn't seem to be a problem. Dolphin have sought legal advice on this stuff, and they're like, no, we've been pretty clearly told that thanks to the DMCA exclusions for interoperability of applications and layers that do interoperability, emulators using this technique are fine. We can't be. We are exempt from the rules that would say we can't do this. So Dolphin's fine. You just won't see it appearing on commercial stores or...
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think that is fair, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, technically they could appear on stores is what this means. It's just that Valve wanted Nintendo's approval for it. I guess presumably after Valve might have got in a little bit of trouble when they posted those screenshots of Dolphin being on the Steam Deck, They did that.
Valve did,
yeah. There was some promotional art that had like the Steam Deck interface. If you're not familiar, but it had basically like the app launcher for Dolphin on one of their promotional shots.
Can you get it on there then by jigging around?
Yeah. It's totally possible. Yeah, because basically the Steam Deck OS lets you just run apps you've put on there, right? So there needs to be a way to expose that through the Steam OS launcher or Steam Deck OS launcher, whatever it's called. So that was how that slipped in. So there was that. Otherwise, not a lot's happening. There's not going to be a new Immortals game. That got cancelled. That was apparently underway.
Once again, it's the question of what the fuck is Ubisoft even doing?
What is Ubisoft making these days? Yeah.
Or maybe more a question of like, what are about 10,000 people of Ubisoft doing? Like, I'm sure there's some amount of people are still working on like Assassin's Creed and whatnot, but then you look at any Ubisoft games credits and there's like so many people in there. It's like, okay, where's the rest of your goddamn company at the moment?
You say some amount of people on Assassin's Creed projects. Don't forget there's like 5 of them at the
sure,
moment.
I guess.
I can only really remember 3 off the top of my head. There's Mirage, there's Jade, there's the Witchy one. Wasn't there another Asian one as well, like a Japanese one in the work or something like? Yeah, there's a lot of Assassin's Creed projects on the way at the moment.
Maybe.
Yeah, unless they get canned as well.
Well, unless those were just like super long distance announcements, like some kind of Elder Scrolls 6 scenario.
Yeah, and was it Massive that were leading the project on Star Wars Outlaws?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they're getting their own project. So I guess that's the thing. Everyone's working on Assassin's Creed or Star Wars or The Crew,
I guess,
or Rainbow Six, I guess. The Clancy verse.
You're however many people are still working on that.
I mean, I bet a bunch of people are still working on Siege, but because it's a money spinner, right? Siege is still huge.
Yeah, but that doesn't seem like that would take many people any longer when you're just adding a character every now and then or whatever. I mean, it's work, but it's one of those things where it's like you've got a formula down at this point. You just have to come up with
I wonder if I wonder how many people it takes to maintain a game like that.
Well, if Team Fortress 2 is any judge, not many.
That's true. I don't think you can use Team Fortress 2 as a yardstick for many things these days.
Well, it is a multiplayer shooter, though.
It is somehow still operational. Yeah, I mean, there's that. What else was happening? What else did I write down?
Not much. Like one more thing.
Yeah, Gundam Evolution is shutting down, which was less than a year old on consoles by the time that dies. So another free-to-play shooter that is apparently not done successful enough to keep running, which struck me as the only reason I mention it is because it struck me as a little bit of a surprise, because I thought that game was doing well simply because the number of people on, again, personal bias, I suppose, the number of people through my Twitter that actually kind of enjoy that game and seem to post about it on the regular. But so I kind of thought it was doing well enough.
Yeah, but Gundam is not a very popular franchise in general, I don't think.
Do you think, like, outside of Japan?
Look, outside of a very small subset of anime fans.
I mean, I have to confess, I've never seen a Gundam like episode or anything. Even as someone that watches anime, like I just never.
Well, I think the trouble with Gundam is like it's one of those classic anime situations where it's like, which one are you going to watch? Because there's too many fucking versions of it.
Where do you start? Do you go back to the 80s and start from there and work your way up, like, or do you just pick like something more recent, like, I don't know, Iron-Blooded Orphans keeps coming up on my Netflix as you should watch this.
So that what that actually means, you have to go to some anime forum and see what their top list is or whatever.
Where do I begin? Although, to be fair, every time I think about watching a mecha anime, a bit in my head goes, you know what? I should actually go back to Full Metal Panic, because I started watching that years and years ago.
Although that one, again, another one of like, which version are you going to watch of that?
Oh, wait, there's multiple versions of that.
I think not like tons, not like Gundam tons.
It's not like. Is this the Full Metal Alchemist problem, where it's like, do you watch the original or watch Brotherhood? To which the answer is obviously watch Brotherhood, but
obviously.
Started watching Vinland Saga season 2. That show is real good, but also heavy. That's a heavy viewing. Recommend it though. It's good. It's good. It's also on Netflix now, so that's nice. That's pretty much all I've got for news. Is there anything else anyone else wants to talk about? Do we really want to talk about Twitter?
No, not really.
I mean, I'm going to forever call it Twitter.
I know.
Is anyone ever going to actually...
I mean, realistically, at this point, we're still in the waiting period to see whether this all gets undone. Give it 3 more weeks, at least.
It's going to get undone, surely.
It has to get undone at some point. It's just a question of how long.
Yeah.
I mean, whether the company will go bust before it happens. Yeah.
It's just... I mean, everyone said it. I don't need to reiterate it, but I'm going to anyway. It is the weirdest business decision I think I've ever heard. Like why would you shit all over?
Yeah,
over what is I wouldn't say an untarnished brand, but
obviously,
but still a very strong brand, like one of the strongest.
Incredible. The fact that. Okay, so if you forget the name, it's like they have a name. So if you make a post on Facebook, it's called a post. If you make a post on Instagram, it's called a post. If you make a post on a blog, it's called a post. If you make a post on Twitter, it's called a tweet. No one else has that. That's amazing.
I mean, I guess you could say it's a gram on my Insta.
Well, you say
I think
I've heard it a couple times, but no, generally not.
The gram is the shortened form of saying Instagram.
You say it's a TikTok, right? When you're just posting a TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, that also happened for Vines as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I guess TikTok's got it too. Yeah, fair. But I just think, like,
it's not like I go to the YouTubes and watch a tube.
You put up a tube.
And it's a verb as well. I tweeted or whatever.
A tweet, yeah.
I tweeted this tweet. Like, no one says like TikTok this, TikTok.
and what do you immediately think of when you see a tag that's at someone? You think of Twitter. Like, yes, Instagram follows that same pattern, and yes, I think like Threads and Mastodon probably follow that as well. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's not.
But you think of Twitter first. Everyone, that's just how it works.
That's less linked to the brand than the actual verbiage.
Well, exactly. Well, Twitter did it first, right? That was the thing. Twitter did the @someone thing.
Sure, but that could still work under X. That's not linked inherently to the word Twitter.
No, you're right, but it's a strong part of the brand. It's not going to stick. It can't stick. It's not possible.
I mean, for a start, what you're going to have for the website.
And also, the brand is it's untrademarkable as well.
There's been arguments about whether that is true or not. Like, it might be. Because it's not like Microsoft and Facebook don't already have trademarks of X.
Microsoft are the strongest holder in that area because I don't think X just as a it's weird, right? Because I don't think X as just a letter is possible to be trademarked in this way, but the X as a logo, right?
Yeah.
For Xbox is so X using just an X for their logo might get them into trouble. Let alone the name.
So stupid.
It is.
But he's seen them trying to take down the Twitter sign from their office in San Francisco and getting
so
stopped. And then they put up a giant, horrible looking X on top of the building. And now they've put fucking flashing lights on it, which flashes like strobes into the fucking building opposite for the people or whatever at night. It's bad. Like, what the fuck? And then San Francisco City is like, we should probably stop this. Going around.
We can't have a building as an epilepsy attack.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait for the helicopter crash.
Exactly. Oh, it's so fucked up. What an idiot.
I mean, I struggle to. I mean, it probably is just Elon, but there's a part of me that thinks he must be surrounded by idiots that are also propagating all of this. He can't have done all of this himself.
Well,
he gets the feedback through the platform. Right?
Yeah, I feel like the Twitter thing he could have actually done himself. Maybe because he didn't it's like an incredibly half-baked change. It's like there's still the word Twitter all over that goddamn website and tweet.
Well, and at least on my phone, the app is still the Twitter app, right?
Well, I mean, that just might be a refresh update or whatever. But,
sure.
But yeah, it's clearly just like he knows how to access certain files, but he doesn't know how to access a lot of these files.
Here's the thing. Branding aside, do you think anyone's actually going to move? I mean, there's been so many people saying they're threatening to move. Like when Mastodon came about and had its moment in the sun.
Well, apparently,
does anyone really talk about that now? Like people are only talking about Threads, the Facebook thing now because X is such a disaster.
Well, apparently Threads is already falling off again.
But... Yeah, exactly.
Well, of course it is, because there's initial interest, of course, and people already have an account on Instagram, so it's easy to log into Threads and see what's going on. And when you see that, of course, it doesn't have the content.
I think maybe now is the time when, some percentage of people are finally getting out. That's the thing. I think, maybe now we can finally just not look at social media continuously.
Man, I like Twitter, though.
Me too.
I don't like engaging with it, but I like just reading. That it's the one thing I doom scroll. And
Twitter is by far my favorite social network, mainly because it's the emphasis on short text makes people be funny.
Sure,
That's what I like about Twitter. Although there is a lot of horrible nastiness on Twitter.
Of course.
You could filter it effectively, so it's just a bunch of clever people who are funnier than you saying funny things.
I actually don't have enough people on my Twitter to make two things. I don't have enough people that I follow intentionally, so my doom scroll capability is actually that long. Right, I will reach the end of my feed that I've seen before, or if I put it in chronological mode, which is what I do all the time, and which I'm not even sure you do that anymore. Anyway, whatever. It seems chronological to me, but anyway, I get to a point where it's like I've seen that, fine, I'll stop, great, and it's like that happens. So I'm not infinitely scrolling it forever, which is great. So plus point. Secondly, that list is filtered to pretty much only what I want to see, and. Every now and then it's just impossible to avoid the odd retweet from someone that you think is like, oh, I really didn't want to see that, or that's not good, but it was like a retweet from someone who's normally good.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens with your own friends on Facebook, so... It's rare that they actually that cops drive down this road.
That's usually it's coming from my end, usually.
It's the cops. It's the fuzz. They're onto us. It's illegal broadcast.
Yeah. I don't know what else we can add to the X debate apart from...
No, it's... I guess no one will actually move, right? It's too big a platform.
I mean, yeah, I think Zach's right. It's just that people would maybe drop off and go outside.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I already feel like it's to some extent the media side have already dropped off Twitter. Like when you're looking at the BBC news posts or whatever, they're much less frequently embedding Twitter posts in those.
Right. I mean, honestly, that's a great thing. I mean, the news, news shouldn't be using that as much as they do. I kind of fundamentally think that's they should be doing their jobs better than that.
Well, but quoting a tweet that's from the actual source that you want to take the quote from is that's perfectly fine journalistically.
I mean, that's fine, but then most articles of that top then degrade into, and here's what other people are saying about it, and those are
not on the BBC that ones.
Okay.
Embed the tweet and then basically say the same thing again in the actual text of the article.
I mean, fair if that's all they're doing, but a lot of stuff you read is they embed the tweet and then go, and here's what other people are saying, and you're like, no, switch off.
I mean, that's what the actual website is for. That's where you go to Twitter and actually read that.
Just use Twitter. I don't need these other sites for that. You have not added to this conversation. Stupid website.
Maybe it's time for the grand comeback of Google Plus.
God. I mean, other than the fact that nobody used it, Google Plus was fine.
Well, obviously. I mean, it was just like all the other Google systems. It was fine.
But it was deader than dead.
Yes.
Whatever happened to... Is Ello still a thing? Did that still exist? Anyone remember Ello?
I mean, if it was a Google thing, it would have been killed. They kill everything they make.
It was a Google thing. I think it was another just general social competitor.
Mm.
I don't know. Oh, it's weird. It's weird. Where are we going to get our gaming news? Where am I going?
We didn't get it from Twitter anyway.
No, we didn't. But where am I going to get my temperature for the gaming news?
I mean, I used to use Joystick, and half our sources shut down. What is it now? Kotaku is
Kotaku's a good one. And if I had a Forbes subscription, obviously Jason Schreier from Forbes would be.
Cares.
It would be a hot sauce.
Use my method. Look at YouTube thumbnails. That'll tell you what's hot in gaming right now.
It does kind of tell you what's going on sometimes.
Why? What is hot?
What's on your YouTube thumbnails?
Well, on my YouTube adverts, it's non-stop Diablo 4. So I guess that's about that.
Okay.
I mean, the new Mortal Kombat 1 trailer was the thing that I seemed to see popping off this morning.
Oh, well, that's a bit too new. That hasn't fully filtered into everyone's thumbnails yet. I think I saw a couple. That's how you know. It's it's the percentage of how many of these other different channels are all doing a thing about it. That's how you can tell how important the news is, I guess.
Speaking of news, that's probably the news.
I guess so.
I think it's time for what you've been playing.
Is it?
Rob, what have you been playing?
Is it? Let's hold off on the Zelda segue, shall we? And go,
because it's a segue, yes. Yeah, that would be the idea.
And go meandering through my other gaming musings. I played a bit more Daytona USA 2001, which I talked about last time. I got through the championship mode of it again. I didn't score as well as I did back in the day, apparently, so I'm not as good as I thought I was after my initial success of beating my previous times. Actually succeeding consistently enough to do well in the championship. No, I didn't do quite as well. But weirdly enough, that resulted in me unlocking a car that I didn't apparently have before. So I'm a bit confused about how that system works. Did I not? I don't know what condition I met this time that 20 odd years ago when I was playing this, when it was new. that I didn't do, but whatever. I've unlocked 2 more cars that I never saw before, just through playing the game. So huzzah, I guess. I'm better now. I don't know. Okay, I still find that game as weird and simple and just weird. The way that game handles is odd. Like I enjoy my time with that version of Daytona. It takes a while to get used to. Yes, the controls are oddly twitchy, and the way the cars drift is strange and unforgiving. But that's kind of the point. That game is has its own technicality and its own way. It requires you to get invested to figure that out and to get a handle on it. And to be honest, even with the amount that I've been playing it, I still haven't got my handle on it fully. It will still confuse, and it will still rile you a little bit with just okay, why on earth did that happen, or why on earth did that drift behave like that, or why couldn't I get control of my car again after that particular series of events, or on a handling level, even without the other car's involvement, which is also a frustration point, because you could get something wrong, be trying to recover, be not traveling very fast, and then an AI car will just run into you at top speed, and if the speed difference between you and them is fast enough, it will count as a crash and spin you out, so you're even more hampered by your earlier mistake. It can just compound. Problems can compound in that game in a way that's interesting, which makes doing all the more important that you do a perfect run and you race consistently and all that kind of stuff. And it's the weirdness is what gets its hooks in me. And I think that's why I like it. And probably another reason why I dislike more modern arcade races. They're so handling is kind of refined now to a point where you can pick up almost any arcade racer that's been generated in the last 10 years, say, and be I can play this. And I'm not 100% convinced that's a good thing. Sure, it onboards players easier, I suppose, and they could be having a good time faster, which might result in a demo of that game going well. But long term, I just feel like that makes the game more forgettable. I want a reason to get invested in a racing game. And honestly, I think that's the thing that most racing games miss. It's you have to have a reason to keep going, and even with all the limited options that Daytona has, its weirdness and its goodness works in its favor. It rewards you for staying with it, and I miss that. I do miss that in games generally. I miss having that drive to learn how a game works. I miss having that drive to drive.
The drive to drive.
The need for speed.
Yeah, that's sort of why I'm enjoying this retro run of mine. And I will continue to do so. Because I've got a couple other things on that front I've played briefly. I thought now that I've got a DS that works, or multiple DSs that work, I've been playing a little bit of Ridge Racer DS, which is carrying on my Ridge Racer run. Which, as it turns out, I'd sort of forgotten that it was the less good port of Ridge Racer 64. It is basically the same game. It's the same music, the same cars, the same variants of the tracks, and I'd kind of forgotten that's what this was. But also, as I'm playing it, I'm kind of aware, or my memory of Ridge Racer 64, which was still pretty strong, kind of supersedes my memory of this, and I'm playing this sort of immediately thinking, well, it's like this, but I don't remembering it. I remember the 64 version being better, so I've not been super engaged with this one, thinking, okay, maybe I shouldn't play too much of it, because maybe I actually just want to play Ridge Racer 64.
Fine. Just go ahead and play it.
Yeah, which does the same thing, but better. Or at least that's how I remember it. So I'll, at some point I'll get the 64 out maybe, and and we'll test that theory. So yeah, been doing a bit of that. I got myself another copy of Hydro Thunder as well for Dreamcast. So this one actually works. So I've been playing a bit of that.
Oh, sweet.
And there is also a satisfyingly strange racing game. You know, it's not quite as technically weird as Daytona is, but it's fun in its own strange arcade way. Like the handling is super simplified for like boats on water. Like you don't get so much of the driftiness, you don't get so much of the bumping around on the waves. It's actually quite, forgiving, I should say, for that kind of stuff. You can pick vehicles that make that more of a problem. When you eventually unlock the harder tier vehicles, then the water physics does appear to make a bit more of a difference. But Hydro Thunder is about 2 minutes of fun, right? That's its whole thing. Like the courses are real short. It's just have a blast through it. See if you can beat your time, get a certain position. See if you can do well enough to unlock more stuff. Do it again, rinse and repeat. And that is all that game is. It doesn't have modes. It just has go. Just go do it. Go play. That is the only option you get. You get to pick your track and your boat and you press go, and that is it. And it's like it's refreshingly simple, and it achieves it pretty well. What surprised me about this version, because Zach and I obviously played quite a bit of the N64 version back in the day, like when it came out. The Dreamcast version isn't
maybe when it came out.
Well, a little bit after, I guess. But yeah. The Dreamcast version isn't, I wouldn't say, a huge improvement over the N64 version, which is strange. It's essentially the same game structurally and content-wise, but it still runs at 30 FPS. I'm not sure there's much of a way in a graphical bump. I'll throw Zach at it and see how his memory relates.
Well, yeah, but I think this is the problem. I actually think this is the problem about most stuff we played on N64. It's just like, I don't think we actually remember what N64 was like any longer.
I mean, N64 was so fun. My general memories of N64 third-party games is that they are always fuzzier than you remember.
Yeah.
And the frame rate is never as stable as you remember. Even for the games that had terrible frame rate, it's always worse than you think.
Because I can't imagine that the Dreamcast is putting out something anywhere near an N64's quality of output.
Well, you mean better?
Yeah, I mean better.
Dreamcast should do a lot better than N64. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's got a little bit of a resolution bump, and the frame rate is at least a solid 30. Like, it's not dipping it anywhere.
I mean, I would imagine the fog draw distance has got to be a massive improvement.
See, I don't remember there being much fog in the N64.
Yeah, and that's why I think you don't remember it, because I bet that fog draw distance was like right up on you and you could see shit.
Probably. But then how do the big jumps in that work then?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you just don't... I feel like probably we don't remember it being as bad as it actually is. Right. It's like when you play Revolt 64 and it's like, holy shit. Yeah,
Revolt 64 is... It was rough at the time, right? Because I'd already played the PC version with you quite a bit, and then I somewhat foolishly bought the N64 version because I don't think my PC could run Revolt or something. There was some reason why I bought it. I thought maybe the multiplayer version on the N64 would be worth a punt, right? No, it does not. It does not run great. Like most acclaimed games on the N64, I guess. But, yeah. I mean, I was tempted to pick up the Dreamcast version of Revolt.
The other trouble with Hydro Thunder is, the arcade version, because we did actually play that at least a couple of times.
Yeah, not a lot. I don't have huge because like that had a wheel and you drove it like a car, right? Like Hydro Thunder actual arcade, and that would have been built on Midway's 3DFX system, like San Francisco Rush was. I guess that's why it made a relatively easy port to the Dreamcast. Probably not that difficult. I mean, the Dreamcast was Power VR run, but similar level of feature, a similar feature set to original 3DFX. Anyway, that game's quite a lot of fun. Like it is. It's good for a short session play because there isn't really much in it. But also it's hard enough that you keep coming back to it. Like, it's not easy to just run through all the tracks in one run. There is a nuance to learning with the tracks again and learning this thing. Learning the boost mechanic. Like, there's a boost jump that you have to do that is kind of funky in the original one that in Hydro Thunder Hurricane, if you've played that, they just replaced that boost jump with a button, which is much less cool. I much prefer having to do the weird break boost thing that you have to do with a certain timing, otherwise it doesn't really work right. And if you get it spot on, the jump is enormous, which is weird and great when it happens. I love the weirdness. I think that's the point I'm trying to get across with all this retro racing stuff. The weirdness is what makes these games interesting. And we've lost that. And I will keep saying it until I'm done with this retro section, which may be a long time. Speaking of which, I have played a tiny bit of Vanishing Point, which is also another Dreamcast era racing game. And that has some of the weirdest, wobbliest handling going. It's really hard to describe until you put your hands on it. Like, the cars are super they're like springs, but like rotationally springy. It's really strange. It's almost like you've got to ignore the direction that the car is facing and just look at the direction the camera is facing and focus on that and hope the car kind of adjusts, doesn't slide around too much and goes where you want it to go. It's very odd, but I kind of remember getting at least back when I bought it and it was new. I remember sticking with it and really enjoying it once I had got a knack for its very strange controls. It requires an incredible soft touch on the stick in order to like keep the cars under control. But once you've got it, you could boss the game, and it was. And I think that was the trick with it, right? They made the handling difficult because the course design is actually generally pretty simple. Like, they're mostly freeways, they're mostly very wide roads, and it's more about getting around the traffic and getting around the turns with the optimal line for that car. It also takes the slightly controversial stance of it not being a racing game. It's a time trial game at heart, which is unusual. And against how its own intro sequence works. Its own intro sequence has like a Lotus Elise and a Mini racing against each other on a busy road, and there's an explosion and a tanker goes off and the Mini tumbles down the hill and then it explodes, and none of that is in the game. I mean, the Lotus Elise is in the game and the Mini is in the game, but like, that sort of racing is not what this game is about, and that intro is really weird. Like, it next to the real game, it doesn't make any sense at all. The thing I remember most about Vanishing Point was it's absolutely probably quite revolutionary, and I can't really remember a game that has done it in quite the same way and quite as well, other than maybe Trackmania, of all things, and that's its multiplayer component. It's internet multiplayer component, more specifically. So it was like, it had you obviously can't use it right now, but it was fascinating because it was great, actually, because what you would do is you'd hook your modem up or your Dreamcast and all that stuff up, and what it would do is you'd say, I want to play today's daily challenge, and it had a daily challenge, and it would download, you'd dial up to the Vanishing Point server. It would download the challenge. It would download the current leaderboard, including the splits for everyone, the split times as they went around the track, and then disconnect. So, like, in the time of dial-up internet, that was like a godsend. It's like, oh, I don't have to stay connected to play this. So then you'd race against these downloaded split times, which makes perfect sense for a time trial game. And of course, you'd be the updates you'd get whilst you were racing would be real people's times, and the position you'd see would be the real person's time, and it would say, oh, so you're currently 164th or something in the world at the on this split, and it would be like live updating as you raced, and that at the time blew my mind, and I thought, like, this is great, I love it. And I played so much of it like that, because then when you were done and you were happy, you could go, right, connect again, and it will update the leaderboards and tell you where you actually are currently, and be like, oh, you thought you were high at the table, were you? Oh, no, a lot's changed in the last hour since you last connected. Like, try it. Like, the leaderboards have got better. Go again. Stuff like that. And it was addictive. And I loved it. And I can they could do weird stuff with it as well, like change so everyone had the same traffic pattern basically, and it was the same course, the same car, the same and the traffic layout would be the same. But they could do weird stuff with the traffic layout, like make it so some of the cars could weave around like wildly rather than just being like cars on the road as you might expect. So you would end up trying to time bits of your lap to where you knew the traffic was going to be weaving. It's like, oh, I can't take that line here if I'm coming at it at this point in time because there's going to be a car in the way as I come around the corner. Oh, it was just cool. It was just one of those things where it was all about optimizing, and it hooked. If you were into it, it really hooked you. And it's I'm so hoping Forza Motorsport can do that hook again for me. I'm so it's been a long time since a new game has done that for me, where I really want to just like ace a racing line and get something like that going. And I hope
I know.
I really hope Forza Motorsport, the new one this year, like pulls me in that way.
Yeah, let's hope so.
So I've only really touched going back to Vanishing Point, but I might stick with it, see if I can get the handle on its handling again. But I'm not going to get that experience that I would have had in the early 2000s. It's just not possible now. But it's a good game, but it's hard to recommend because of its handling. It really is. It is a strange one. Quality music though. Proper like early 2000s like trance kind of stuff. It's
nice. It's
pretty good. Yeah. It's a pretty good soundtrack.
That's quite appropriate for that kind of game.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Sweet. So that's my retro run. Do we want to do? Is there anything else I've missed, or can we do the Zelda segue?
You could do a Zelda segue.
I spent quite a lot of time in Zelda the last couple of weeks. I know I've talked about quite a few games there, but most of my time has been in Zelda. We should start this section with Dan. Where you at?
Yeah.
How much can we talk about?
I don't know. So you just talk about what you want. I think it's best because I'm never going to catch up. So
I know, but I don't want to spoil it for you, man.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm halfway up Death Mountain. I got to the restaurant or whatever.
Right. The bistro.
Yeah. I did a few tiers. I found a few tiers in the main central Hyrule.
So you've seen Gorons on drugs then?
At the restaurant.
Yeah. The red eyes.
Did you find the hella spoiler tier now? Because that one's sort of on the front of Death Mountain, I guess.
The sword.
No, not the sword one. The Switch one. I think.
Oh, you might be right. Yeah, it might be the Switch.
Which one did I found the tier? Like at the bottom of the field, and then one.
Right, the bottom one is like near the sort of near where Dueling Peaks is, but not quite.
Yes, exactly. And then there's also one on the side of the Lake Hylia, I guess.
Oh right, yeah, right on the side of it. Yeah.
So I found those two.
Okay, so probably not the super spoilery one yet.
No.
Not that anything's a spoiler in that, really, I guess.
Mm.
The super lore one, I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
The one that tells you what's actually going on in the story, maybe?
Yeah. Well, I'd be curious to see that. I might have to go and search that out. Yeah. I'm looking forward to having more time to play.
Kind of West Eldin, isn't it, the Switch? And then the sword is even further west than that.
Well, the sword is up the back next to what used to be the dark.
It's behind the Lost Woods, right?
Yeah, behind the Lost Woods next to the dark ruin place that's not dark any longer.
Right. I was wondering where that was.
And then the Switch...
Typhloon? Yeah.
The Switch Pura Pad one is sort of in that sort of... It's sort of a weird empty space on the map that's sort of between the old route up Death Mountain and the new route up Death Mountain. It's like there's this sort of triangular gap in between those two routes where there's really not anything there. It's where the shield surfing, one of the shield surfing minigames used to be, on the grass hill. Well, it's not exactly on that, but that's the only thing that used to be in that part of the map, and that's not even there any longer.
Well, this is a nice rainy Sunday afternoon, perfect for playing Zelda.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
look forward to it.
I'm still I think I may have mentioned this last podcast. My hookness is waning a little bit. It's starting to degrade a touch, but because it feels like I'm making less and less progress the more I play it. Like
because you are, though.
Yeah,
you've been spending a lot of time not doing major things, I guess.
No,
which is fine because that's kind of part of that game.
Yeah, I mean, Zelda's thing is doing everything but the main thing, right?
Yeah. Well, but also like in the Breath of the Wild universe of like, there's a lot of just empty time just wandering around, and that's fine because that's part of the exploration aspect of that game. You're not always going to be on a quest, although maybe in this game you are slightly more always on a quest because there's a lot more side quests.
There's probably some more guided stuff here than there was in Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's to its detriment, as I'm sort of finding, because like a couple of them you sort of realize you spend some time on and then get a bit confused and annoyed, and it's like, well, I thought I knew what I had to do. There's one in particular which has been stumping me for a while, and it's just we talked about it earlier, Zach, and it's just like, oh, I thought I knew where this was, but I haven't found it yet, and I don't quite know the description of it from the side quest thing hasn't quite been what I thought it was, so I've ended up just wasting time essentially, like doing not a lot, like trying to fulfill a thing. Which I guess is fine. That's what side quests that are slightly vaguely defined are supposed to do, right? It's supposed to, when I eventually figure it out, it will probably be like, oh, snap, I got it, finally, and it will have a great relief moment.
Well, maybe. It'll be like, how the hell did I miss this? I'm real dumb.
I mean, that's also possible, because, again, after our discussion earlier, I'm going to have to go back into... I'm probably going to have to check the thing I thought it was for a third time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I have had that happen a couple of times where it's just like I thought it was more complicated than it was, and it turns out it wasn't. Although, I mean, I don't think we talked about it on the podcast. It might have been I was playing it slightly before we recorded the podcast, but there was that one where I was like, the mission description mentioned a specific weapon, so it was obviously I was going to have this specific weapon to, insert it into a slot or whatever and trigger a thing to happen. So I spent fucking forever looking for this one specific weapon, and I was, because of the way the quest was worded, I assumed it was going to be an undecayed one as well,
right?
Which means you have to get it from the depths.
Yeah.
And then when I went to the place where the mission actually was, not only did it not require an undecayed one, there was one like 2 feet to the right of where you have to put it in the slot. It's like, it's not actually, the mission wasn't telling you to try and find this thing. It was just telling you to go to this place and then, oh, look, here's the really obvious toggle switch that you have to flick, basically.
There it is, right there.
So sometimes it will do that, but, sometimes there is a bit of a puzzle.
I mean, I know what they're trying to. They don't want to make them too complex, because the world is too big to potentially be like, well, it's got infinite possibility. This could be anywhere.
They can't be like, go to the other side of the continent and pick up this one specific thing.
Yeah.
Because that'd be a bit much.
They try and avoid that anyway. I mean, there's definitely spots where it's like, well, there's definitely spots where that sort of happens.
Sort of.
It's like, here, travel to this corner. Now travel to this corner.
Kind of.
I'm looking at you, travel medallion.
Well, the travel medallion doesn't really...
There's 2 spots there's 2 corners you have to travel to for that. One of which I haven't done yet.
Well, the travel medallion is just get all the towers, which you're going to do anyway.
Oh, yeah, and I'm missing... well, is that part of it? I didn't know that, because at the moment it's asking me to get 2 specific things for it. There's 2 specific things I have to go get.
Oh, right, yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess one of those is not a tower, certainly. The tech lab part.
Yeah, the Akala tech lab, and that's asking me to go down to the near eventide, essentially.
Right, yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess so. And then it's just towers.
Oh, okay. So I've still got that to come. Okay, fine.
But not all of them immediately. All of them eventually. There's like there's multi-tiers to that travel medallion.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that. So I haven't done that. That's like the one Purapad upgrade I haven't got yet, because it requires more travel than the others.
Yeah,
by the time I went to do the Purapad upgrades, I had everything you needed for the others.
Yes,
so it was just
that is another classic situation of side quests in that game of like, you've already have the thing.
I've already done the thing, yeah.
But then that makes that travel medallion one like, oh no, actual effort.
There's at least 2 things I can think of in that game where I don't know what they're talking about. Where, from side quest descriptions where I'm just like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. There's at least one thing that springs to mind of something I've seen that I can't help but think must be a thing, and yet nothing's come up for it yet. Oh, well, no, that's not true. Two things. There's definitely a second location I've been to where it's like, this clearly has to be a thing, right? Right? And then you get there and there's nothing, and you're like, have I got ahead of a quest or something like that? Am I going to be back here? I think I'm going to be back here. And that's kind of annoying. So you end up thinking like, crap, I've got ahead of the game. And
well, yeah, but you don't really get ahead of the game exactly, because like, even when you find somewhere where it's like, this is clearly a weird location where something's going to happen, apart from in these specific situations we talked about before, it's very rare that you can like actually do anything at those locations.
Yeah. There was nothing to do. There was absolutely nothing to do in one of them I was thinking of.
Which is usually how you tell, where it's like, okay, yeah, clearly this is a thing that's going to happen at some point.
I mean, that's not strictly true, but it was much more low key than I was expecting. There was something else. There must be something else there. Yes, that's happened a few times, and that doesn't help. Also, I'm still after all this time not feeling I've got the combat down. I'm just not gelling with it. Like in the big moments, I feel like the game just doesn't solve the camera problem well enough. Like the camera is almost a bigger enemy than the enemy itself half the time, because it's like I just did not see that coming, or I can't angle the camera in a way where I can see where the danger is, or I can't, or I just can't shoot a bow at the angle that's required of me right now, which means I've got to reposition into a place, which means I have to take my eyes off the thing that's going to be attacking me at this moment in time. It's just, I'm sure this was a problem in Breath of the Wild as well, but for some reason it feels exaggerated here, and just not. It's never quite. The word I'm looking for is like, I want to say it's not. There's a level of polish that's missing, but polish isn't quite what I mean. It's not like anything's essentially broken. It's almost just that the systems don't necessarily work for the combat scenarios they're creating here. Like there's a dissonance sometimes between what you can do and what's actually happening, or at least aiding you in a way where it feels like you're competent at what's going on. Also, I hate the flurry rush timing. I hate it. I know it's more lenient than Hyrule Warriors by quite a long way, but it just feels really odd sometimes. The timing doesn't feel consistent from enemy to enemy.
Well, no,
and it's really off-putting. Like there are some times where you can feel like you're Phantom Ganon versus Moblins, for instance. Like, I don't know, the Phantom Ganon timing seems real easy. And then, like, a lot of the Moblin attack patterns, I can never get right.
Well, I think Moblins were always harder than most stuff, even in Breath of the Wild. It's just like, I think I find it's almost a problem that some of the enemies have too much wind up. Like they're trying to telegraph that thing's coming, but it lasts too long, and then that tricks you into trying to dodge too early, and then you get screwed.
The boss bokoblin wind ups are really long.
Well, the boss bokoblins also have a secondary problem that they have two different versions of that main like sweep attack, where one of them has a longer wind up, and it's very difficult to see the difference between those two before it happens.
Yeah, also true.
So that's more of that specific animation problem where it's like it's too similar between those two different versions of that attack.
But then even when you get the ignoring the wind ups, the point at which it wants you to dodge before an attack, that timing doesn't feel consistent either.
No,
like there's definitely some enemies where it feels like you can jump super early before the attack comes out and it counts.
Yeah,
and others where you have to be right on the money, and that is the only time that's going to work.
Yes,
and it's.
I mean, I feel that like
I can never remember the difference between them.
Well, yeah, help. I mean, I guess that is the thing. It's just like at a certain point you kind of learn what, like, this attack, don't even bother trying to get a flare rush off it. Just block it the normal way.
And there are some attacks that are so easy to read. Like, it doesn't happen very often, but there's definitely been some moments where it's been like, I can parry this mother.
Yep.
And then the actual parry bonus has been like nothing.
Well, the
it's not been worth it. And it's like I just did one of the, what is supposedly like one of the harder bits of timing in the game, supposedly. So and actually there's been no benefit to doing it. I should have just dodged.
Well, I mean, parry has always sucked.
Yeah,
like in Breath of the Wild,
that's a real shame.
It was never like Flying Rush was always superior in every case. The only thing that parry is good. Well, I mean, in Breath of the Wild, obviously laser parry, but that's not a thing any longer. But in Breath of the Wild and this game, I guess the trouble with it is that it's a sort of hidden mechanic, which is that like if your shield rating is high enough compared to the strength of the attack, that's what determines whether when you parry it knocks the weapon out of their hand.
Oh,
so if you're
which
using,
isn't going to happen with every enemy, obviously,
but like if you're using a good enough shield against a weak enough type of weapon, or like moderately weak weapon or whatever, that's when theoretically parry could actually be useful. But there's no real way you would know that.
It's never explained.
Well, no, yeah, it's never. Well, I mean, it's maybe somewhere in the game there's a thing that says that parry will knock the weapon out of people's hands, but it's never going to be specific about like what the mechanics of that is, like why the shield number matters or whatever.
Yeah. Because I mean, that in most of the time that's never explained, right? Like, what actually you've got a better shield, and it's like, okay, better how?
Yeah, exactly.
What does that even mean?
I mean, who knows? Maybe something you can fuse to your shield improves parry, but you never know that.
Nope. It's I mean, presumably it's the same. It's the same
improves
math,
parry in terms of like disarming people. I mean, not just like the attack parry, which it does tell you about, I guess.
Yeah, it does. It does tell you about that. Or at least you can. I accidentally learned that by accidentally parrying with a rock on the end of a shield early on. I mean, yeah, it doesn't really tell you any of that, and I guess it's the same maths that's like when you're using, say, a double-handed weapon against someone holding a shield.
Yeah,
like
knock their shield out.
It's more likely to knock them out, but I guess if they had a stronger shield, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Also, I'm just not. I'm not. I'm also like, I don't know. These are great. I've played this game for so long. I think I'm like. Now these have elevated from nitpicks to like proper gripes now.
Okay.
Like I'm not sure the level scaling of moblins and the general creatures in the world is a necessity, right? I get it, but I feel like they've scaled faster than I have. So like fighting even fighting a silver bokoblin is annoying.
Yeah.
Because they have so much health. And it's like, this is going to burn the durability on a weapon. And it's like,
but then you get that really good horn off them.
I mean, I guess. But then I've got to find another base weapon to attach it to.
Well, I mean, just start deleting attachments at that point. If you've still got a perfect, like, no durability damage weapon that you can just upgrade with a new horn.
Which I do sometimes, yeah. I definitely do that. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just like, the silver stuff in particular just feels like it has so much health. And I don't know if my weapons will scale to the point where it feels like I'm doing adequate damage to them. Like, I kind of want them to get to me, be at the point where it's like, surely I should be taking on, if I'm using silver grade stuff on my weapons, I should be able to take out silver grade stuff as fast as I took out orange stuff.
Well, maybe not that fast.
Well, maybe not that fast, no, but still, like, I don't know. It's more of a chore to fight in this game than it is to actually enjoy the process.
Well, I mean, I think that's what I was saying when I was going through that point, is just like the scaling has like it doesn't do well in the mid. Like it scales too quickly and like it's not smooth. Like you go from seeing like no silvers to fucking tons of silvers, but you don't scale in that same way. No, the way you're playing it.
Pretty much every grouping I see now has at least one or two silvers in it, right? Now it's not like they're all silver.
Yeah,
like there's one or two annoying things in every group I come across.
But as I also said, like the slight way that the slight way it's better in this game is that they do let more of the enemies stay low leveled. Like not everything gets upgraded. Because in Breath of the Wild, that kind of was how that went at the end, where it's just like everything's silver.
I mean, it's not so bad when there's a balance. Like for some reason that alleviates it a little bit, right? If you get yourself into a big fight and there's both the oranges, the blues, the blacks, and the silvers, and there's like a range of them to fight all in it, that's kind of okay. Yeah. Other than the fact that I also don't think the game handles large fights particularly well, because it's not. it doesn't do the thing that is super obvious in like Assassin's Creed combat, right? Especially old Assassin's Creed combat. It doesn't do the everybody waits their turn thing. No, everyone's gunning for you at all times, which should be cool, except for the fact that the game doesn't necessarily give you the tools for dealing with that.
I mean, that's what the avatars are theoretically for, even though that system doesn't really quite work that well.
Because they attack so infrequently.
Well, it's not that they're attacks, it's they're drawing attacks. They're meant to be a distraction.
I mean, sometimes they are, yeah. And it's nice when they draw big things. Yeah. Like a Talus goes after them. You're like, hell yeah, I can just creep up on this guy. Hell yeah. And I'm still accidentally activating their powers when I don't want to. Yeah. Anywho. So those are my beefs right now. Like,
I spent a long time. I'm still on the armor upgrading grind, although I have completed a bit more of my map exploration. I'm basically down to only the desert to go now. But I've still been doing the armor upgrades, mainly because before I got to, before I got to the desert mountains where it's cold and the desert where it's hot, I wanted to get, those two sets of armors upgraded for obvious reasons.
Sure.
So I was like, but those need the Zalfos tails, like Fire Zalfos and Ice Zalfos for the respective heat and cold resistance, obviously. So I was like, I'm going to have to grind these tails. And the drop rate on those is ass.
Oh, no.
But the trouble is that, I got so few through the progress of the normal game. I was like, okay, this is going to suck to grind. But I was prepared to grind. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to have to wait for the blood. Like what I did with the Lynels. It's just like, I'll just wait for the blood moon, run a route that kills as many of them as possible, get whatever tails, and then bugger off and do something else until the next blood moon or whatever. Just do that, and it'll be fine. But so when I first did that for the Fire Zalfos up Death Mountain, I turned on the sensor to detect them so I could find as many as I could and make a route. And it was like, I went up there and I killed 18 of them, and then it dropped 2 tails. And I was like, this is real bad. If it's going to require to do the full, to do not just the warm armor and there's another armor set that also uses those Lizalfos tails. It was going to take 48 Fire Lizalfos tails. I was like, getting 2 on a run is not going to work. So then I was like, okay,
48. That's an absurd number.
Well, it's three pieces that need 10 each or whatever. So I was just like, this is not gonna work. There's got to be some trick to this, right? So I was coming up with my first theory was maybe I should stop just instantly vaporizing them. Maybe I should stop using the elemental attack that just causes them to instantly...
They just poof.
Yeah, instantly poof. Maybe that will increase the drop rate. Apparently that's not the case though. That doesn't matter. But so I went on the internet and looked it up, and it was just like, okay, apparently the consensus of the community, which again is one of those situations where it's is this statistically significant or is this just pure random? But the consensus is that the drop rate for the tails is higher if you're using a sword or a blade. And it doesn't matter about the elemental thing, just as long as it's a sword or a blade.
But specifically...
But the trouble with that is that it's very specifically the weapon has to have the word sword or blade in the name of the weapon. Which means if you take a royal sword, which is a sword, and you attach virtually any horn to that, it becomes a reaper, and then therefore does not count. And then I went and did the grind with specifically a blade, which I was making using a claymore and a dragon horn makes a blade. Specifically,
quite powerful.
Well, yeah. It's unnecessary because it was elemental and they just die instantly anyway. But I had that dragon horn hanging around and I was like, yeah, I can use this. Also, I guess dragon horns have quite good durability because it never expired in all this grinding I did.
Oh, nice.
So that was helpful. But yeah, I made this elemental blade type weapon, ran through the grind, and it was the drop rate seems higher, probably. But, statistics, who actually knows? This could be a pure perception thing.
Is it a placebo? Yeah. You looking for it. Oh.
But yeah, I did get through that grind relatively quickly. of course, now that just leaves electricless alphas, which is going to be the annoying one because I suspect they're going to be less.
Is that for the shock resistance?
Yeah, for the shock resistance armor. Like, I suspect they're going to be less frequent, and they're going to be in the desert, which is just annoying to deal with anyway.
I don't think I've seen a single one, and I haven't been to Gerudo yet.
Well, sure. So. And, they don't have this helpful instant kill thing.
Right, yeah.
I think I might stick to an ice blade, because then at least they'll still get frozen. And then I get to hit them some more.
They smash on the first hit, though, right, when you freeze them?
Yeah, but that does more damage,
okay.
the breaking hit. And then you just refreeze them again immediately afterwards if your ice power on the blade is still active.
Sure, but then presumably you're doing the slightly awkward weapon switcheroo the whole time.
No, you just hit
freeze, switch to something else.
No, you just hit them with the freeze again and then break them. Doesn't matter.
Waste your durability on the freeze weapon.
You can save a lot of time. And also, apparently, maybe that doesn't matter if you're using a dragon horn. Maybe the durability will be enough.
Mm.
Or I guess I could, go back to bow hitting them, set them up with a bow initially.
Oh, I see. What? Freeze them with the bow first.
Well, or just, headshot them with the bow on the way in and then use the freeze weapon to finish them off in 2 hits, probably. Yeah. Freeze and unfreeze. That'll save some durability, I guess. But I don't know. We'll see about that. It's going to be... hopefully I won't have to grind that and I'll just get enough of those naturally in the process of exploring the desert. Maybe. Because I guess the electric armor is well, I don't know. Because the trouble is that you use the Filer's Alphos for the warm armor and the Iceless Alphos for the cool armor.
Sure.
And then there's a third armor set that uses some of both. And that armor set, I haven't seen if it's then also going to use some Electricless Alpha Tails. So I might still have an equal number of Electricless Alpha Tails as the Fire and Ice ones to get.
It seems like a pretty obvious balancing problem.
Yeah, it does. I feel like the drop rate of Tails was perfectly fine in Breath of the Wild, but then you didn't care about them, so maybe it...
Right, yeah.
Maybe it was worse than it seems.
Were they just elixir parts before?
Yeah, I mean, all monster parts in Breath of the Wild didn't really matter.
But they weren't part of the armor
requirements. I guess the hot and cold armors must have used the elemental tails. But yeah, I guess it didn't seem that bad in that game, so maybe the drop rates were higher.
Mm.
Did they use them, or I thought it was just the lizards or whatever?
No, I feel like the hot and cold armor must have used the tails at least one of the steps.
You need the lizards for the flame proof, right? Not the heat armor.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, not for the desert stuff, for the mountain.
For the raw
volcano stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, that was quite an annoying situation of there's got to be a better way to do this. Or, you can just look up one of the item duplication glitches and just do it that way if you're feeling particularly lazy.
Does seem a bit mean for a game that's it's already massive, but the requirements for things are quite tough.
Well, I feel like
the armor upgrade requirements do seem just generally seem scaled quite high compared to anything else.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I feel like it's only really a problem in these specific cases, like the specific armor sets that you need to exist in those environments that you're going to therefore want to upgrade to get to the armor points. Or, I guess you could rely on cooking, I guess.
I guess that's another thing they're encouraging you to do, aren't they? I
suppose. Forget upgrading the actual armor and just rely on the heat-resistant cooking or whatever.
But then, I find, if I pop some food that has the effect I want, unless I've got a stash of, non-effect food or hearty stuff, I suppose. It's always annoying to be oh, crap, I've run out of my, base... no effect food, and I need to pop something else to get health, which I really need right now. And it's got
well, that means you didn't cook enough of the other type of food.
Well, no, true. But often, like, when I'm going around the world and I'm just exploring it, I wouldn't say I'm always intentionally going to things where I know where it's going to exactly be or what I'm going to face. Like,
yeah, I suppose.
I didn't mean to fight that Thunder Gleeok. I had every intention of avoiding it, but hey, it drew me in, and I thought, right, sod, I'm having this.
Well, then if you have like one electric resistance patient, that's enough.
Well, unless I need health, and I don't have like
okay, sure.
base, then I'd lose that.
But if you're, I mean, you say it drew you in, it's kind of a giant obvious target. You were in the vicinity.
I was in the vicinity. I didn't intend to fight it, but once it started fighting me, I thought I kind of got the red mist and was like, I'm not having this. You're dying, mate. Irrepressible thoughts of death.
Yeah. And I guess the other dumb thing about this whole process of upgrading the armor is I'm not even going to wear all that armor because I'm going to wear the sand boots.
Right.
So I can run faster. Which then you lose the armor bonus as well. It's just like that. I've always thought that was a dumb system as well. It's like they give you this nice specific bit of equipment that lets you negate the effects of snow and sand on your run speed, but it does because it's not part of an armor set. It removes the whole point of getting the armor set.
Trade-off.
Yeah, but dumb trade-offs. I'm not going to waste my triple speed boost on not being able to go at maximum speed. Even though I did waste quite a lot of a triple speed boost. I ate one of the 30-minute ones that I had, and then got into a side mission which basically required me to stand still for like 10 minutes.
What?
Which was kind of disappointing.
That's a weird-ass side mission.
I probably should have just left and continued to use my buff, but I was like, oh, fuck it, let's just do this now.
Remember that one for later. Okay. The leave the controller alone side quest.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's really dumb. Okay, well, I mean, spoilers for this one side quest, but it's kind of like the same as it was. There was a similar side quest in Breath of the Wild. It's the, like, survive the elements where all you have to do is, survive for a certain period of time. In Breath of the Wild, it was that one with the Gorons who have that, like, hot plate that you have to stand on.
Huh.
And you, like, it's really hot in that game. But in this one, it's just like you have to survive the day-night cycle of the desert in both the day version where it's hot and the night version where it's cold. And it's like, oh, you're not allowed to wear your special fancy clothes to resist it. So, maybe you could eat a food, or maybe you could just equip a weapon that gives you the heat.
Cools you down a bit. Yeah.
Right.
And then you just stand there for 10 minutes while this other guy looks at you, and it's like, I'm clearly not cheating. Just ignore this giant weapon I'm holding.
His giant flaming sword of doom.
I didn't really think that side quest through exactly, I don't think.
That sounds legitimately rubbish.
Yeah. Well, I think they were trying to make it more fancy because, like, the platforms that you stand on, next to them, there's, like, some zonai parts or whatever. But it's specifically, like, some stakes and some planks. So I think they were probably intending you, at least for the daytime one, to, like, build a shade where you just, like, mount the stake into the thing and just build
wow. That's actually smart.
Yeah, but you don't need to do that. just equip an ice weapon. And I'm not sure what you do for the night version, what you do to stay warm.
Yeah, what's the... does it let you put a fire down?
Well, I don't know. Like, could you maybe use, like, a zonai flame thing, but, like, point it close to you, but not actually at you to get enough warmth?
But then you'd have to burn electricity all night.
Sure. I mean, that would be a different...
Burn energy, yeah.
You'd have to use some other kind of buff or just have enough energy to do it.
Burn charges, I guess.
Yeah. But yes, clearly there's meant to be. I mean, it was kind of that. What the version of that in Breath of the Wild was kind of the same way, where it's like you're not allowed to use your fancy clothes, but use any of the other ways you can become completely immune to heat while standing on this hot plate, while the Gorons cheer you on for clearly not cheating in any way.
How odd.
although the most annoying thing about that mission is like you do the nighttime version, you do the daytime version, and he's like, "Oh, you're real good at this. I'm going to have to go somewhere else and train." But the way he says that implies that he is literally going to go somewhere else, and there's probably going to be a third version of this. And I'm like, God damn it, he's going to be in a bit of the map that I've already explored, and I have no like reason to go back there. So at some point, I'm just going to have to wander around and try and guess where he went.
You're not going to discover him.
Damn it. He does say...
So it didn't show up in the side quest log.
No.
A hint.
It's like he just says, I'm going to go as far north as I can. So I'm just like, well, okay, we'll just go from where he is now. We'll just go as far north on the map as I can, and he's going to be somewhere in that vicinity, I guess. Hopefully. If that even is another side quest, it might just be you go there and he just has a bit of flavor text.
Maybe, yeah. He's just like, oh, yeah, hey, I'm training.
Yeah. It's hard to tell. And this is one of those, it's starting to get to the point where I'm like, I should just finish the game, because then, like Breath of the Wild, it will tell me how many side quests I've still got to do.
Right.
Rather than just hoping that I'm going to find them all. I'll at least have a number to work on.
Cold train is at home on the rails.
Yep. But I can't finish the game until I've done all the shrines, obviously. But then at that point, I will have basically covered all the map anyway.
In case there's a secret ending.
Well, yeah. And also, I want to see what the bonus you get off finishing all the shrines is.
Presumably you can do that afterwards anyway.
Well, yeah, sure.
Presumably you get the extra ending if you just...
repeat the final boss, probably.
Or even... Would it just give it to you, like, if you finish all the shrines? Or...
No, it'll probably be the same it was in Breath of the Wild, where it's like it tags on to the after credits sequence or whatever. I assume.
I find it amazing that you haven't done all the shrines yet.
Well, it's just because I haven't been in the desert. Like, I've done everything apart from the desert, and I know that, like, it's just the shrines in the desert.
So have you still not done, like, the Gerudo?
No, I mean, I did that. I, mainlined the desert. I basically stayed only on that road that goes from the entrance to the desert to the Gerudo town, and that was it. So I've only killed, like, one Molduga so far, which I need some of those parts for armor upgrades again. But then that's like, again, haven't done the desert exploration, so I'm going to be fighting some more of them.
I've only seen a single Molduga so far, and I haven't been to the desert yet. And that was mildly confusing when I found this thing. I was just like, wait, what?
That is weird.
It was in the depths.
Right.
I just found one. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere near you. I fought the Muktarok again, though.
Right.
Which was interesting. Without low grav. Anyway, I won't say any more on that. That's
Yeah, I guess that fight isn't low grav. I never even noticed.
Yeah.
Like, I never jumped during that fight.
Oh no, that was the key to it for me. Like easy slow mo on the bow.
Yeah, I suppose.
Anyway, I won't say any more. I won't spoil that for Dan. It's a fun fight. I like that one.
Look forward to that.
Actually, I mean, speaking of that fight, also not spoilery, but like, I have been back to that fight a couple of times, and it's getting to the point where I'm thinking, now I've done this, I'm still going to need to do this more, and like, should I start thinking about Zonai device cheese? Because I can definitely think of several ways to make that fight way easier.
Oh, sure. Why didn't I even think of that? I mean, popping capsules in the
obviously.
in the middle of the
you're going to use some of your shit.
And some prep, I suppose. You could, at least to the one in the depths, you could at least prepare.
Yeah, before you walk into the arena, essentially. Yeah.
But yeah, of course. Of course there's things you could do on that front.
Yes, that's definitely that's one of the reasons to do that. Once you have to redo things like the bosses, where it's like, why not bust out the cheese now?
Yeah.
You've done it the legit way. Why not do it the cheese way?
Why didn't? Oh man, I think I have the same problem to some extent with Tears of the Kingdom that I do with using a Mac. Like, I just don't think of the other ways I could potentially be using this.
Yeah.
Like, there's just plenty of moments where you say something and I'm like, oh, for the love of God, of course. I could have just done that. And I knew that mechanic existed.
Well,
I'm the same.
I mean, it's good when you know the mechanic exists, but I mean, I've been spoiled on mechanics in that game where it's just like, I didn't know that this was a thing, and I don't think I ever would have tried it. Like, I just like, it's like, I mean, not even on the level of like the shield numbers or whatever. It's just like, this is like hidden mechanics, where it's just like, this is just how the game works.
Something functional, but not like hidden in the numbers, you mean?
Yeah. It's like you do a certain thing in a certain situation and a thing happens and you're just like, why would you ever think to even try to do that? But it's so useful once you know it.
Oh, man.
Now I just want to spoil that one. But it's a very small thing. Well, you throw shit at enemies all the time.
Yeah.
And like, maybe you've tried Dazzle Fruit at some point.
I mean, like, super rarely, actually. Like, I haven't found it, like, very useful.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's used. I initially thought, oh, this is kind of useful for fighting the like groups of the like boss bokoblin mobs.
Sure.
Because you just chuck a Dazzle Fruit at them and it stuns them all.
And they all go, whoa.
And it's like, that's great, obviously.
Yeah, but just not as effective as throwing a muddle puff or whatever.
Well, sure, if you want, that's another option, or you can do a puff shroom and just go and backstab them all.
Right. Yeah.
All the things you can throw at enemies.
Seems to be the cheese, one of the cheese.
One of the cheese, yeah.
Yeah.
But so
does that work on like Lionel's? I think it does.
I don't actually know.
Man,
I guess I've never tried
that. Would be powerful.
But you can't backstab a Lionel, though, can you? I don't think they have the sneak attack option. You can mount them.
There's a thingy where you can mount them and stab them.
Yeah, but that's not really the same as a sneak attack.
No.
It doesn't get the sneak attack bonus anyway.
No.
But do you get the mount option? Like if you get around,
I assume so. I assume if they can't see you, you can just mount them. Because you can paraglide and mount them directly if you come in at the right angle so they don't aggro on you.
I still haven't fought a Lionel. I haven't found a low level one. I keep finding like.
Well, there's that quest that literally tells you to go fight one, which is a low level one. But anyway, so the Dazzle Fruit, it's like you might think it's kind of useful, but here's the secret, why would you even try this? And then when you try it, it's like, it's way too powerful. Dazzle Fruit just instantly kills any Stalfos. Probably not like the Stalnox, but any of the regular ones, you just chuck a Dazzle Fruit, they will die.
Oh, that is handy.
So that's all I use them for now. So it's like, as soon as I hear the skeletons coming out of the ground, it's like, ping, and you're all dead.
I like that. Okay, that's good. It's not as game breaking as I thought as the revelation you were going to like provide. It's like here's how you win, but it is pretty useful.
It is kind of game breaking, and like it completely negates this one type of enemy for the entire duration of the rest of the game. Once you know that, it's like you don't even bother fighting them. And it's like, yes, I guess in theory that sort of would make sense in like, they're afraid of the sun or whatever and they go away when the dawn comes. Like you maybe could have intuited that in some extent, but you probably wouldn't have guessed that it just instantly kills them.
No, it never really comes up as a thing you can do, right? It's not like there's a mission where you like shine a light on some style creatures and they
even when when you're shining lights for other reasons.
Sure.
There's like, I mean, maybe you haven't seen this Zonai part, but the mirrors.
I have not seen the mirrors.
Yeah, well, that you can attach.
I did know that. I did not know that was a thing.
You can attach those to your shield and make a mirror shield in a Zelda style.
Cool.
But like, is that ever useful?
Well, I don't know.
Well, you don't know, and I also don't know.
Oh, okay.
But because like,
I mean, it'd be great if there were some creatures like if the Guardians are still about, right? Just mirror shield them.
Yeah, I mean that would be the logical.
That
would be like having when you had the like ancient tech shields in Breath of the Wild where they auto reflect the lasers.
Right.
It's just like that would have been what the mirror shield would be for, right?
That could have been neat.
But there's no giant laser shooting thing. I guess there are. Actually, I don't know. Again, things that you never would have maybe tried, but like I don't know if you have the mirror shield, would it reflect the laser beams that there are in various like Zonai contraptions? Could you reflect those?
Oh, what? Like in the shrines where there's like lasers?
Yeah, or any kind of laser.
Maybe.
Things that you maybe could try that might be hella cheese, but who knows?
Or Thunder Gliok lasers that they kind of shoots that sort of lasery beamy.
Yeah,
things.
I think those are just markers for the lightning, though. It's not.
No, he like blasts like straight lines out of his face.
Oh, what you mean the actual
during the first phase,
the sweeping beam things that they all do.
It'd be great if you could reflect those.
Yeah, I always thought there's got to be some trick to that, right? Like, there's got to be some way to
peg it.
Yeah, other than just evading them. I did completely accidentally, I think maybe the first time I fought a Gliok, I did accidentally parry them.
Oh, really?
Like, the thing is that, like, it's a continuous beam, but if you're just blocking, you can hear it, like, hits, like, multiple times. So if you time a parry off that, it, like, I think if you do that, it, like, aborts the rest of the beam sometimes.
Huh.
But it doesn't, like, reflect it into him or anything.
Right. Yeah.
It's not very easy to do, though, because you have to be able to hear the rhythm of the hit and then parry off one of them.
In amongst the fight, yeah. Which isn't super easy.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should try that. Stick a mirror shield out and see if that just completely negates those beams somehow. That'd be cool.
That'd be kind of fun. Takes the head out or something.
Well, even if it just diverted the beam, that would be fine. Like, or like did no damage to your shield from it.
Yeah. Like, yeah, that'd be useful. Tried a cannon shield because I thought it would be cool.
Cannons are way too dangerous.
Well, that, and also it's impossible to aim.
Yeah.
I thought I could just Z target on or something, and I keep calling it Z targeting.
Yeah,
you know,
basically,
it's not as good as
there's a Z involved in that button.
Yeah. That's another one of my gripes. I find it quite hard. The Z targeting to the thing you actually want the Z target to is still a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I tried that, and it seems fine, like while the cannon is powering up, but then he sort of just like has a moment where he's like, "Way," gets all drunk, and then the cannon fires in some random direction. You know, like, oh, cock.
Weird. I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've ever used it like that.
Yeah, he sort of just holds it for a bit, and he looks like you're pointing it right at them. But at the last second, I don't know if this is intentional, but it like the stick action might like just change to be an aim
like
or something.
It's an inline aiming thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Weird.
It was just really odd because it never just right at the end of the shot cycle, like it just seemingly drifted off what looked like would be a good shot.
I think the only time I used cannons was attached to weapons. Which is like they showed in that trailer where he's attacking a Talus with a cannon on a claymore,
Well,
so you can do the overhead swing that fires the cannon shot out.
Wow! But surely the cannon still charges, or does the cannon fire on request then?
No, yeah, it fires like pretty much instantly.
Huh.
I think I had it on a spear at some point, so you could just like poke a cannonball. But again, far too dangerous to use in melee combat. You just die. And not even that effective against the Talus. I think I tried that at one point. It's just like, in the same situation, it's just like you can't really aim it at the thing you want to hit. But, you know, build a tank, and then you have a reason to put a cannon on the thing.
I would put a mushroom on my shield.
Yeah.
I then end up with a bouncy shield. And I can just... And if I then try to shield surf it, do I actually just jump?
I don't know if a mushroom on a shield, because if it was, it would be the same as putting the spring on a shield, right? It'd be equivalent to that, except maybe less powerful.
Maybe less good. Yeah.
I don't know whether that does apply, because obviously bouncy weapons, everyone sees them. The enemies use them.
It just sort of occurred to me. It's like, why haven't I tried this before?
More things to try forever since the game.
I mean, most things are pointless. That's sort of the problem, right?
Yeah.
It's like most things don't do a thing, but there are some circumstances where it's just like, I bet that does a thing.
I've been considering using frozen meat as a building component.
Considering.
Well, it's like I can't remember. Like I was fighting some enemy that dropped meat in a freezing environment, and it froze. But it was on like rocky terrain, and the meat started sliding down the hill. And I was like, oh, it has really low friction. Maybe I can use that. Like, maybe I can, like, instead of having the sled be, like, on the ground in a vehicle, you could, like, attach frozen meat, like, wheels under the sled and then have a fan on top that places around. All-terrain meat
all terrain. Would they wouldn't stay frozen outside of like?
Well,
areas,
that's the thing that I haven't tried yet. Is like how fast does it defrost? Like what temperature levels can you get away with? Can you get away with like normal Hyrule Plains temperatures?
Yeah, and have an ice sled. Can you make a glacial spoon?
Yeah, potentially.
And then race it.
Also, because because it's not a Zonai part, it should last forever, right? It won't expire.
Sure. Yeah.
And it presumably won't take any durability damage or anything, like from rapidly sliding across the terrain, because it's not really an item like that. It's just a.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the sled shield bit jumping off the Sky Island did remind me of Glacial Spoon Racer. You have to slide down it. Yeah. Although I messed that up multiple times trying to do and win splat.
Right. Yeah, that was a good one. I enjoyed that challenge.
So yes, that's still Tears of the Kingdom. Still.
How many? We're like 3 months into it, and we're still.
Yep, and I still haven't finished it somehow,
which is madness. I mean, at this rate, I might finish it before you, but I'm not going to 100% it.
No, well, no, obviously.
Have you been playing anything else, Zach?
Yes, I played a bunch more Oxygen Not Included, but I don't think there's much to talk about in that one this time. Well, apart from I started another goddamn save. Because I can't help myself. I basically started another save with the intention of being like, this is the save where I'm deliberately going to make a nuclear power plant. Like, this is the whole purpose of this save. My only goal is to get to that. But then I foolishly thought that making the starting asteroid the radioactive ocean asteroid, where, there's a shit ton of uranium and it has the whole radioactive biome, and also a shit ton of water, which you use for cooling. I was like, yeah, that's got to be perfect for a reactor save, right? But unfortunately, the radioactive ocean terrain does not include reed fiber, oil. Basically, it doesn't include all the other stuff you need
to actually build the reactor.
To build, the steam engines need plastic, and, if you wanted to use the ammo suits to be able to go inside and be protected from the radiation, you're going to need reed fiber and lead, which also doesn't spawn unless you're in the oil biomes, which doesn't exist on this planet. So I was like, you get a shit ton of uranium and a shit ton of water, but not all the other shit. But I continued to play that save anyway, because I was like, well, fuck it.
It's a slight challenge.
Yeah, it's a different... Also, I guess the main reason I continued to play it is because that starting asteroid specifically has so little of these things that you need to do things, it does require you to do different techniques. You can't even get Atmos suits, so how are you going to manage a rocket mission when you want to go into space? You can still make the, gas mask things that give you oxygen but not environmental protection. So I was like, well, I can use them to at least be able to survive in space for a while while building a rocket and that kind of thing. But then you don't have plastic, so you can't do a bunch of things like mini pumps and germ sensors and meter valves and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of more of the precision tech, I guess, requires plastic. So you can't do any of that. And then this map doesn't have oil, so you don't have petroleum, which is usually how you make plastic, but also, no petroleum engines, none of that for power. Can't use steam engines because those require plastic. So you can't use steam engines for the normal cooling loops that you might do. So yeah, it's a bit of a challenging start, I guess, which is probably why it's the last asteroid on the list. It's actually kind of difficult in the early game to get through that to the point where you have access to all the different resources that you traditionally need. But yeah, I played that bit. And then the only other thing worth mentioning that I played was I played SimCity 2000.
Oh, wow.
Because we talked about condominiums.
Oh, yeah. And you'd never go back to SimCity, whatever year that was.
I have thought about it. The more as we've been coming up to City Skylines 2, I've been like, maybe I should one time go back to SimCity 5, as we call it. But I haven't yet. Mainly because that would require reinstalling Origin. Because here's the secret trick. No. I played SimCity 2000 technically on an install from Origin, but not through Origin.
Wait, so you downloaded it through Origin?
Well, it was I hadn't deleted all the files that Origin had downloaded. I'd only uninstalled Origin because I was like, in case I want to reinstall Origin at some point, I'll at least keep the data, I guess.
The game can still launch.
Well, but the thing is, because SimCity 2000 is an old ass game made to work on modern systems, it's actually just running DOSBox. So if you just run your own version of DOSBox and just point it at the exe files, you can just run it.
Oh, nice.
Amazing.
Because if you try and run it, if you go into the file and try and run the pre-built version of DOSBox that's in there, it pops up a thing which is like, no, you need to be running Origin in order to run this. And I'm like, do I now?
I need to DRM check this.
I don't think I do. I think that's just a regular exe file. The SimCity part of this is.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
So I just went into my version of DOSBox and just made the appropriate bindings to make it run, and then just went in that way.
Huh.
And then play a bit of SimCity 2000.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean,
how well does that hold up? Like.
I mean, it's
presumably, does that game progress faster than I remember it? Or
probably. Like, there's there's probably not as many options as you remember there being, because there aren't any options in terms of progression, like tiers. So like, there's the school and the college, and you just put them down over and over,
like hundreds of them.
Yeah, hundreds. But yeah, there's like the only, and also because it's like a very traditional SimCity game, the actual progression is like time. You don't unlock things, you just wait until the appropriate year and then they invent the thing.
You try not to be in too much debt when you get to that point.
Yeah. And also don't forget that power plants explode after 50 years.
Yes.
Decommission. That classic ridiculous SimCity 2000 thing. Where where it even calls it out in the newspapers, like they're
about to get creaky, or
you get those stupid newspaper pop-ups that alert you about major things, and then like one of the newspaper pop-ups is like your power plants are going to explode. But like if you click on the story, well, I mean obviously the headline doesn't say that, but if you click on the story, it pretty much literally just says that. Like it's like a news story, but it's quoting like civil engineers who are just like, yeah, well, power plants just blow up after 50 years. There's nothing to be done about it. It's like, okay. That's the gameplay mechanics.
Oh, that's great. I love that that's obscured like that. Or what's themed, I suppose, like that.
Lord.
Yeah.
Although
I really wish you could mod the game so like whenever those newspapers appeared, it did like a Batman.
Yeah, they should have a sound effect. It'd be very annoying very quickly. But,
yeah.
But I had kind of forgotten that like they don't actually always explode. Like if you have the money, it just deducts the money directly out of your account, and the power plant just resets its timer to 0.
But it builds it again.
Yeah, but seamlessly. You don't even know it's happened, apart from you have like $7,000 less in your bank account suddenly.
Oh, weird.
I thought they always exploded, but I guess that's only if you don't have literally the cash on hand to do the replacement.
Weird. Okay, I didn't realise that either.
Or unless this is like, I suppose technically I think this version is after the urban renewal patch / expansion thing that SimCity 2000 had. So maybe that was actually a quality of life improvement they did. Maybe. No idea if that's true or not. But yes, it was funny to go back and be like, oh yeah, I remember the stupid newspaper and their goddamn stupid stories with their like slightly randomized elements where it uses random different verbs sometimes to describe things happening. The old man was surprised or exhausted or something. That's like from the inauguration of the city. It's like the old man was insert noun. It's very strange. The skaters formed a procession to celebrate the town. Although it's always skaters. I thought that would be randomized, but apparently it's always the skaters.
The skaters.
The skaters from the nearby city of next door city came over to your town to make a procession.
Okay.
And the old man was
bamboozled.
The old man was some kind of reaction.
Just the old man.
Yep, the old man.
Just the one.
Some old man. In this city that doesn't exist yet.
Old man.
But yeah, apart from that, it's, going back to the old school, power lines have to be built over the roads because they don't just auto transmit. You have to make an actual proper connection. Same with the water pipes. And I'd kind of forgotten that there's unnecessarily complex details in that game which are completely unnecessary and also completely impossible to tell how you're meant to use them correctly. Because there's a menu you can pop up that's in the taskbar menu, a drop down, and then in one of those options there's a graph, and that graph shows you what types of industry are being built in your city, by the steel industry and the fishing industry or whatever, which obviously has no actual visual effect. They're all the same SimCity 2000 industrial buildings.
Sure.
But then on that graph, you can individually set the tax rates for each type of industry. And the game claims in some tooltip somewhere that the idea of that is to be because you're progressing through time, history, you're supposed to predict what the big new industry coming up is going to be, so you can adjust the tax rate to encourage it to come to your city, which increases your industrial demand. It's I barely even remember that system existed at all, and the fact that you could potentially go into this minute detail of individual industry tax rates, it's just this is totally not necessary in any way.
Cool though, but presumably it's
a bit detailed.
Presumably it's a fixed way of gaming it, right? Because of the time progression is
it's always going to be the same industries that get invented at the same years.
Yeah,
but then you'd have to remember to keep changing that all the time.
Yeah,
as you were playing the game.
Speedrun,
and you can I guess I sort of did know this, but even you can individually change the tax rates of residential, commercial, and industrial, because it has just one box on the tax screen that has the tax rate, but you can then click on the detailed view and individually set them per per type. And you can also do that for school funding. You can individually change the funding between schools and colleges. So if you don't need all these extra college seats, you can just ramp that down a lot.
I wonder if there's there is a SimCity 2000 speedrun of some kind,
probably
you can never go in the red or something.
I mean, let them go in the red. Let you just take out a bunch of bonds.
Yeah, but I wonder what the end goal would be.
Well, get our colleges probably.
What? Yeah, speed. But then presumably that you could do that. Problem with a run like that would be like if you started from a certain date and just put it on max speed, it's you're always going to hit the point where you could build an arcology.
Yeah, but you'd have to get the money. I guess you'd have to build enough of a city to generate the money so that as you reach the point of being able to build the ecology, you could immediately put it down.
Yeah, but I guess the problem with that as a speed run would be there is a theoretical maximum.
Sure,
you need something that can be beaten.
Yeah, I guess there could be some kind of restrictions, no certain types of building or
First
something.
To a certain amount of money. Is it what? Yeah, how you game the system to achieve that is up to you. First to a certain population.
Build something on every tile of the map.
Yeah. First to achieve that. Or just be road.
Well, sure, but you still need to make money.
You still need some money, yeah.
I don't know what the cheapest thing you can build is. Trees obviously don't count because those are,
pylons, perhaps.
I don't even remember the cost of wires versus roads. Roads are obviously 10 quid. The classic number.
It's always 10.
It's always 10 quid. You have to assume that there's probably some hidden zeros after those numbers when your city's monetary fund is 7,000. It's there's probably some hidden zeros.
Simoleon, the
Simoleon exchange rate is real bad.
Yeah.
Or good,
or
whichever way around you want that. But yeah, that's SimCity 2000. I didn't play it for that long. Didn't even play it long enough to get to arcology age.
I mean, no spaceships.
Well, no, actually, I suppose I technically did, because you get to the first arcologies, I think, is around the year 2000. So if you started in 1950, that's not actually that long. Although I think I started in 1900, but it still didn't seem that long. But then the thing is, this is another thing that I think maybe came with that urban renewal expansion thing. But there's a whole bunch of saves just built in with the game, I guess.
Oh.
So you can load them up and look at these really fancy cities.
Oh, yeah, I sort of remember that.
Oh.
Not the scenarios. I mean, those are there as well.
Yeah, sure. I seem to remember I don't think that was a SimCity 2000 only thing. I seem to remember like the Amiga copy of SimCity 1 did a bunch of that. There was a whole bunch of like pre-saves there you could just load up and look at.
But yeah, looking at all those saves, the ones that look more like someone has actually played the game and not just edited the map or like gone into infinite money mode, they all are like the year 3000 or whatever. Like, it really doesn't take that long to get to the archaeology time period in game time, but to actually make a city that big maybe takes a bit longer. Unless you're being very efficient. Get your microwave power plant.
Yeah, maybe time to speedrun isn't, maybe time to archaeology isn't as simple as I thought. Like, maybe it's not possible to max it out.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe you can never, like, beat it. Have enough money by the time they become available.
Yeah, if they can statistically figure that out.
Although I don't actually know, I don't remember whether there's other requirements.
Right before you're allowed to build.
Yeah, before you, like, is there like a population requirement or whatever?
Presumably you need a zoo, so the llamas.
Yeah, you got to get your llamas.
Yeah,
you got to build the Space Needle and get some llama weddings.
Love those pointless stats. So, like, modern games like City Skylines, anything like have anything like that in there? Like,
I don't think they have pointless stats. They just have normal stats.
Nah.
They just tell you actual information.
They're missing a trick. Honestly, it's part of the charm.
Yeah, some of the charm was really nice.
You want something real stupid in there.
Well, I mean, it only really worked in 2000 because it was all llamas, right? That was the joke. All of the hidden dumb stats were to do with llamas.
Jokes. There were jokes in the newspapers about which way you put the toilet paper and stuff.
Well, sure, but I meant like
articulating splines, and
of course,
all the hidden building stats. I meant where it was always some llama thing.
That's true.
Llama weddings on the Space Needles. You got llamas in the zoo.
Yeah,
the stadium with the llama-based baseball team.
Wasn't it just llama sightings?
Llama sightings. I think that was that City Hall. I think it might have llama sightings.
Somewhere like that. Yeah.
And then that was the speed of the game. Was one of them. It
was llama speed. Yeah, wasn't even the fastest one.
No, cheetah.
African swallow.
How fast? And what were there 4 speeds? Were there? It was like,
I don't think in 2000 it was turtle, llama, cheetah in 2000. I think the 4th speed didn't appear until later.
Sure, one game had African swallow as its top speed. I can't remember what that was.
I think that's Sim Farm.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
I mean, I don't think I played Sim Farm.
Maybe Sim Tower. I don't remember.
Oh, it might be Tower. That sounds familiar.
Well, there we go. Tripping through time.
Yep.
Back to 2000.
Literally in the game. Also,
did it actually come out in 2000 or was it?
No, it
must have predated
that, right?
That, yeah. Like early 90s, I want to say.
No, it's not
maybe mid 90s.
Mid, yeah, surely.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because I guess early 90s was still SNES era and SimCity 1.
Yeah.
Or the interesting Nintendo version of SimCity 1.
One day I really want...
93, so it is early.
Oh, okay. Earlier than I thought.
Early.
Yeah.
Well, earlier than I corrected my opinion.
Yeah.
One day I really want to go back and play SimCity 3000.
Right.
But, like, I mean, that's fucking impossible to get running and no one's bothered re-releasing it yet, I don't think.
Oh, what?
Why do you want to play that one, though?
Because it's
like
weird. It's like, it's real jank, as far as I remember.
Is it not on Origin yet?
I don't... Well, I mean, last time I looked, which would have been ages ago, but I don't think so.
Is that the one where they started letting you, like, import custom building designs, or was that 4?
I don't remember in 3. I don't remember about what the customization was like. But 3 was like the embodiment of like the late 90s with all its like weird advisor faces.
Oh god, did it have those? What, like the Civilization style, like?
Well, I mean, 2000 has that as well. Like those little black and white photos of a policeman or whatever as your police advisor. But SimCity 3000, they got that very like late 90s like I don't know, Beavis and Butthead, like, gross art style.
Really?
It's not as extreme as that, but it's that weird, like, exaggerated proportions, and they sort of Constructor, maybe.
Wow, I don't remember that from in SimCity.
No, that's why SimCity 3000 was weird.
Huh. I have to look this up now.
But yeah, I'd like to play that again at some point, just to see if I can actually understand that game, because obviously even then I didn't really understand SimCity really. It was only by 4 where I was like, okay, I understand how this is meant to work as a game now.
Yeah. I mean, surely 4 is still, like, holds up.
Yes,
right,
and you can still play 4 on, well, I guess I was about to say modern systems, but my computer is in no way modern. You can still play SimCity 4.
God, I see what you mean about this art.
Yeah.
It is weird. I really don't know where to place it. I mean, I'm getting sort of like if Hey Arnold was more realistic vibes about it.
I guess.
Like if Hey Arnold had like 3D shading applied to it.
Yeah, it's like they always. It's like Ren and Stimpy, one of those scenes, but not as bad.
It's definitely not as bad as that.
Weird.
But yeah, I mean, I've always thought about playing SimCity 3000, but I definitely don't have my disc for it any longer, and that's the other problem. Like, if I had my disc, I totally would have already tried playing SimCity 3000. Even if it wouldn't have worked, I would have still tried to install it.
Pretty attainable these days.
You would think, maybe. But who knows whether EA...
Is it even on Origin? Because it's like, in fairness to EA, they've been pretty good about getting their back catalogue like up on Origin.
Sure. But do they care about SimCity? Does anyone care about SimCity 3000? 2000 is a classic. 4 is a classic. 3000 probably not so much.
Well, not so much. No.
Even at the time, I do remember 3 being not quite so.
No,
not such the groundbreaker that everyone sort of expected it to be.
No.
And then 4 came along and was actually pretty great.
Yep.
And then 5 came along and broke the internet.
Yep.
And everyone's PCs in the process.
Yeah. City Skylines 2, though.
City Skylines 2, yeah.
It's looking increasingly good for all their development times. In a way that makes me be like, I can't believe it's coming out in October.
Right.
It's quite exciting. I hope it's good.
I mean, The Wandering Village is coming out, like completely different game, but like Wandering Village is coming out on Xbox soon. Like in-game preview, I think, but
sure.
I don't think to be honest, I think City Skylines 2 makes me want to have a gaming PC more than anything else. Yeah, or maybe like, I don't know, if
you wouldn't necessarily need a GPU powerhouse to run that.
No, well, I mean, it depends if they've managed to offload calculations to GPU.
Oh,
because that's the thing nowadays in simulation, isn't it? There's like you offload as much as you can onto the GPU.
It's the PhysX dream coming back.
Yeah,
yeah. Like maybe if Kerbal 2 was good.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
It isn't.
No, not yet. Give it some years, if any.
Yeah. But the true reason to have a gaming PC is for games that require the form factor of mouse and keyboard.
Yes.
Not nothing to do with the graphics power of PCs or whatever.
Because you could play City Skylines on Xbox if you want.
On Switch.
Well, I meant 2 specifically.
Oh, not 2.
That's coming out on Xbox.
Yeah, it will come out. And I wonder if it's one of those... They don't really talk about it anymore, but I wonder if that will be one of those games that actually has the keyboard and mouse support.
Right. I mean,
like
probably.
on the console version. I cannot remember the last game that did that, but it was a thing they were pushing, or suggesting could be a thing on Xbox at one point. I wonder if anyone tries it these days.
I mean, I wonder how, like... I mean, is it just like basically doing what Windows does, just hidden? Like, does it get drivers?
I mean, I think it's got the...
Well, it will have the basic Microsoft ones,
it'll have the basic like HID drivers for keyboard and mouse on, which pretty much every keyboard and mouse supports.
But does it try and get any other kinds of drivers. Like,
I don't think it would go out of its way to download drivers.
But I'm talking about like, would it be able to support any extra buttons? Because firstly, the question would be: would any of the games on the console be able to use those extra buttons, even if they could exist on the hardware level? I guess the real question is what the hell happens when you plug in a keyboard and mouse into a game that works? So do you get like a key binding menu at that point? Does it actually allow you to do that kind of thing?
I think I want to say Xbox actually blocked you from doing stuff like that, like on games that don't explicitly have keyboard mouse support in them. But presumably, if it detected a keyboard and mouse and the game allowed it, then you'd just get another menu. Like, and just be like, "Oh, hey, you've got a," like games used to when you plugged in controllers of different types. Right, it would just go, "Oh, I know what that is. Right, cool, let's go." Presumably, that menu just reveals itself.
Yeah, you would hope. I mean, it's weird.
I honestly have no idea how many, because it was exciting when they first announced that stuff, because it's like, okay, the new Xbox is probably powerful enough to replace most people's gaming PC if they go down this path.
Yeah.
But I don't think they doubled down on it, and it's, I get the feeling it's basically one of those features that never really...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it probably is.
That never really came... Like, it's probably there,
yes,
right, but no one's writing stuff that supports it. Don't know why, as I started typing, this is the Google Complete thing, which is always great. As I started typing Xbox keyboard and mouse games, one of the things it suggested was Xbox pizza support. And it's I assume they're talking about that Ninja Turtles pizza
the pizza
controller news we didn't talk about. But it's just funny, it supports pizza.
Well, that's the most important feature.
Well, I mean,
without that, why would you buy it?
There was the age of pizza support, right? When all the consoles had their different ways that you could order pizza through various games.
The Domino's sidebar app or something that the Xbone had, right? You could,
and the in-game ones as well.
What's that called? Snapping, right?
Yeah,
you could snap the Domino's app to the side of the console.
So you could monitor the progress of your pizza order while you were playing Halo.
Even the Wii had a pizza app.
I think we did that, didn't we? It wasn't some football on that we, the rare occasion we actually were watching some football.
Oh, yeah.
And we snapped the Domino's app. So it was pretty funny.
Oh, snap.
Snap map.
Do you have any Google results before we end this podcast real quick?
I'm battling
finding what you
cookie
want.
Dialogue boxes more than anything. And then it's one of those articles that takes a while before you actually get, this list is bigger than I thought, honestly. Like Age of Empires 2 is an obvious one, right?
Okay, yeah.
There's loads here, but I'm just trying to think. Art of Rally? That's a weird one, right?
It's a rally game that uses a keyboard and mouse.
Yeah. Atomic Heart as a recent one that has keyboard mouse support. A lot of the Call of Duties.
That is weird.
Limited support in Vanguard, but Cold War has full support. The War Zones have full support. Presumably they do the segregation. Deep Rock on Xbox has keyboard and mouse support.
Well, that makes sense, but
that's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Limited support for Cyberpunk. City Skylines is on the list.
Yeah, the original.
The original, yeah. I kind of want to try this, but that does mean I actually have to reposition my Xbox, which I don't want to do. Halo Infinite, obvious, I guess, because they built that for PC. Gears Tactics, yeah, good choice. Gears 5. Not Gears. I suppose Gears 4 was a last gen game, but Doom 64.
That's the most weird combo.
But not the more recent Dooms. Not Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal, but Doom 64 has keyboard and mouse support. Jurassic World Evolution makes sense. Another strategy game, right? Hot Wheels Unleashed, less obvious. Hypnospace Outlaw. Now that's a good choice, right? Because that is a keyboard mouse game, really. You know what? I'm pretty happy this list is as long as it is, because it's that's reassuring. It's just surprised it's one of those things that isn't as actively talked about, because it's quite a cool thing. I'm Untitled Goose Game. Limited support for Tunic. The Sims 4. Warframe, yeah, I guess. Makes sense. PC game, right? Vampire Survivors, of all things. Oh, that's pretty funny. Kerbal Space Program isn't on this list.
Right.
Because there is a console version of that, right? Yeah.
Probably why it's because it was hella jank, I guess.
Fortnite. And presumably Overwatch, right? Overwatch would be an obvious choice. No, not on the list. But its knockoff competitor Paladins is on the list. Limited support in Psychonauts 2. And this is a fascinating list. Slime Rancher, great choice.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, now you know, listeners, and now you know what to Google if you want to find this list.
Yeah. So this okay, your mileage may vary, but like it's not, and it's definitely not every game, but it's a bigger list than I thought, and some more recent stuff than I thought.
There you go.
Sea of
Reasons
Thieves.
to be cheerful.
Reasons to be cheerful. No Redfall.
Definitely wouldn't fix that.
Maybe a good thing. Yeah. Wouldn't fix it. Right, and with that, I think we'll leave you on a high note then. Positive things in the world.
What the phrase "no Redfall"? Yeah. Always positive.
No Redfall. Yeah, go forth, play the good games, not the Redfall. And,
easily done. Get your Dreamcast
also,
out.
not just playing games as well, although with limited mouse and keyboard support.
Better mouse and keyboard support than the controller.
Better than the current controller support in the form of Beyond Good and Evil, which we're playing over on YouTube on our channel, Happy Salad. Check that out. And we'll be back here in a couple of weeks with another Saladcast like this one. So won't you join us then?
Won't you join us?
And in the meantime, goodbye.